Hello? Hello?
Pew! God damn, that link just goes straight in here, huh?
Oh my gosh, hello? I was hard muted this whole time. That's so embarrassing.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Are you already live? Should I
I
have you?
am technically live, but I could take it. Yeah, I could
No,
disable it. Okay, okay.
no. That's super fine. That's super fine. I here actually. Let me. I think I should be able to. 1 second. I think. Aha!
Let me
There you
also
go.
switch that to there. Oh my God, that
Yes.
is so cute. Okay, I
Yes.
see the
Right.
vision now. I see the
You see the
vision.
vision? You understand now? Okay, good. All
I
right.
do, I
So
do.
yeah, you can chroma key the background there. I sent you a little thing with the settings, and then you can just slap me wherever you want.
I might
Well, I
just
mean, not
leave it
wherever you want.
with the purple background, honestly. I'm just gonna have you be most of the screen with
Yeah?
with your
Okay,
purple snail. I love that. Okay.
that's fine. Okay, cool.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, actually, let me pull up the stream just so I've got a general idea of what's going on.
Oh yeah, I will send that to you.
Amazing, thank you.
Let me send that. And then let me also actually just send it
Oh, I've
to
got you.
Community Archive really quick.
There we go.
Where
Cool.
did...
Sick.
Boom. Okay,
I like the cutoff there.
cool.
Can Open Memetics help normies?
Oh my gosh. Okay, can memetics help normies? That's the question that I guess go ahead, we'll start there, SmugBug.
Oh,
What
okay.
do
All
you
right,
think?
fine. I didn't mean to inject the first topic, but yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We'll start there, and then I'm gonna ask a little more
Okay.
about you and your background.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my background's purple, but I guess I can get into more details on that later.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that I memetics can help normies. Like I do believe that, but I also think that they are immensely susceptible to it in a way that is novel. Um, I have a grand theory about a kind of like pre 2020 generation of internet denizens versus the sort of post 2020 when everyone kind of flooded online. And I do feel I don't know everything I observe about people. I've been kind of categorizing people between people who were there before it and people who were there kind of post COVID. And I
Mm-hmm.
do feel like it's sort of parallel evolution streams where one group basically just got psychically ruined overnight by a ecosystem that they were just totally unprepared for. So I do feel like what memetics can help normies, but the way that they've manifested in our current social schema is basically destroyed them. Like it doesn't feel recoverable to me. I'm very, very much doomer in terms of the damage that's already been done. So
They
I
are
tend to be quite
one-shotted, is what
they
you're
got one
saying.
shotted. Yeah, basically they got one shotted. So I'm broadly pessimistic about the capacity for memetics to help normies. I think that probably our role is in basically trying to attack other memetic agents in the ecosystem to try and like reduce the amount of damage being done to normies. But I don't think interfacing with normies directly, at least at our level, is necessarily um the best frame to go about things. But that's just my
Yeah.
kind of broad perspective on it.
Honestly, I think I actually agree. I hadn't
Okay.
given it too much thought before you brought it up just now. And in
Hmm.
general, I'm like, oh, it's useful for normies to have better cognitive security with memetics, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're actually right. Because when we think about the kinds of agents that are like pushing memetics, it's going to be like intelligence agencies, private intelligence
Right.
agencies, marketers, religions, right? And all these other like very organized collectives. So I think I don't know, I think I agree actually.
Any system of incentives, right? Like any strong incentive to like change the idea space for the population is going to attempt to conduct some kind of memetics, and originally that would be through like marketing or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, incentives are just stronger when organized into organizations like this, you know. No individual is going to be as effective as an organization with even like a few tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, the crazy amount of influence you can have on spaces in a. I mean, this immediately goes onto a tangent, but the idea that we're in an attention economy where $10,000 is incredibly valuable to like any streamer. You know what I mean? Like it costs
Yeah.
very very little to get 10 streamers to do something you want them to do, because the actual it's like uh my wife has recently started playing one of those little video games, like those little mobile games, it's like
Mm-hmm.
you tap like cats to get fish. It's like one of those like cookie clicker like idle games. And I had to like fight with her last night to get her to pay £3 to like stop having to watch the ads to get whatever stupid side currency is required. And I'm like, the 3,000 adverts you've watched is surely less valuable to your life than spending
Yeah.
£3, but that's how the average person kind of thinks about these spaces. So you can do so much with so little money, because that's how valueless attention has become compared to just inserting a small amount of finance.
Yeah, and a long time ago, many worlds ago, I was interested in drop shipping, and one of the biggest
Oh yeah.
promotion, like successful promotion methods is to go directly to like fan pages or like topical Instagram or Snapchat pages and just
Yeah.
directly purchase advertisements, which is also kind of like playing with these memetics, right? More
Yes,
in like
yeah.
a red team trying to make money way, but still, it's still playing with memetics.
It was terrifying. Like it's terrifying when you realize how cheap it is to buy influence in all of these spaces. Like,
It
I think
really
people are
is.
often horrified that like, what, Joe Biden changed his opinion on this for like a $70,000 donation. But like, it's even
Yeah.
cheaper to buy like streamer influence. You can spend 5 grand and get some of the top streamers in the world to say basically whatever the hell you want. So it's kind of horrifying. And I think because most streamers are not very are doing this full time and not making a whole lot of money, I think that they kind of lack a little bit of understanding of like how easily they're pushed around by relatively small sums of money.
Yeah. I think it's really useful to think of money, and this is me going a little bit tangential here, but um I think it's really useful to think of money as like a commodity in a lot of ways, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
recently I've been getting more into Marxism, and they have like this
Uh-oh.
this thing where it's I know, but it's like if okay, sorry, I'm switching directions again a little. It almost feels like attention is the real currency, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we use capital to get results, right? We money is just like an intention. It's like a future intention or a past intention, right? Like
Okay.
we sell our labor, but like the labor. Okay, never mind. I brought up
That's
the
okay.
Marxist thing. I brought up the Marxist thing to frame that like I don't know why I brought it up. I know I brought it up, but the words are not coming to me. So I'm
Well,
just gonna
it
move.
sounds like it sounds like you're suggesting that the Marxist frame is obviously very dependent on the idea of like commodity value, but you're saying that essentially the real commodity, the method of like exchanging commodity has become attention um rather than like money, right? Like that seems to me to
Yeah,
be the point, which is interesting. I think it's an interesting idea that attention has become essentially the means by which we value different things. I do think there are other reasons for that get into kind of extensions of Marxism. Like I don't know if you've read like Varoufakis's Techno Feudalism, but I think
I have
there's
not.
it's a very very interesting book. It kind of it's like I like to think of it as like capitalism DLC. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of this like extra frame that's been put on top of capitalism that sort of explains some of the limitations of Marxism, particularly in how cloud capitalists, people like Bezos, are
Yeah.
extracting value from capitalists, the drop shippers, or whoever has to sell on Amazon's markets, and they extract rents in a way very similar to how feudal lords used to extract rents from like merchants in kind of the early days of mercantilism. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot going on there.
So sorry. Building on that,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I was thinking about this last night, and I was doing a little journaling, which is why I brought it up. But
Hmm.
then I tried to throw in the Marxism stuff, and it threw me all off. But what one of the reasons I think attention is like the main thing that we're buying and trading, and money is like the
Hmm.
commodity, right? Capital is the commodity. Is that I feel like the relationship that organizations, I would call them like plurs. A plur is like a plural virtual intelligence. So like an ant is
Okay.
is like a singular intelligence, and then like an ant colony is like it's this whole system that kind of functions as its own organism, right? They're
Yeah.
all like clustered, but it's obviously not like one organism. It's like well, it is one organism, but it's one organism that's
You
like
could
a
think of like a
decent.
human city, almost like a
Exactly,
plur
exactly,
then. Right. Right.
exactly.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I use the ant colony because it's easier for like people to clatch
For
on
sure.
sometimes. But plurs in the past have utilized individuals for different relationships than they do now. It feels like now collectives are utilizing individuals strictly for the fact that they're there, right? Like if I think about, and this is maybe getting a little too deep into like American culture, but if I
Sure.
think about the relationship of your average retail clerk, right?
Hmm.
They are instructed if somebody's stealing something, leave them alone. Don't touch them.
True.
Like
Yeah.
your job is literally just to be eyeballs in our store and like scan stuff maybe. But even then, we have self checkout where we still have two cashiers watching like a self checkout. Their job is literally just attention. And then like we have other
Hmm.
people on the other side of cameras. Their job is just attention. Whereas historically, I feel like people were more responsible for like mm, there was more responsibility in terms of your relationship to where you're earning your money, right? Like
Right.
it almost feels like previously it was more family adjacent, whereas now like they're literally just paying for your time. Um,
Yeah.
you could sit there on the clock. Like there's that saying, "Boss makes a dollar, I make a dime." That's why I poop on company time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're paying for your attention to be in the office. They don't actually care about your output. Well, I guess they do in like the like
No,
macro
I think
sense.
that's super interesting. I love the idea of like attention labor. I think that's a very interesting idea. There's a very good writer that I disagree with on a lot, but I appreciate, called Catherine Liu. Maybe in yeah, maybe you've come across her.
I have actually.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, I mean, she talks about this in terms of, not in terms of attention, but in terms of like cultural influence. So you're not
Yeah,
actually being paid
yeah.
for your labor in terms of these like professional managerial class roles, but you're there to essentially like become a vessel for corporate culture, and then kind of give that corporate culture a like social infusion. And the idea there is that
Yeah.
you're essentially meant to like propagate it within the corporation. So you don't really need to conduct much labor. You're almost like a kind of status vessel for the corporate culture to rest in, to be humanized by. So I think that is also an aspect. I suppose you could think of it that I feel like there is probably a translation layer between like attention labor and like cultural propagation as like two different aspects of the same thing. But I think Catherine Liu kind of looks into the idea that you're basically not being paid for your outputs in a similar way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. The way that I would phrase that is like you're paid to extend the plur, right? Like they're paying you to be
That's a
the
good way of putting
face.
it. Yeah.
Um, but before we get too sidetracked, I do want to know a
Sorry.
little bit more
Yes.
about you, right? And your background. Like, how did you get into memetics? How did you find yourself in OMI? Like,
Yeah.
what's a little bit about your journey with all of this, all these fun topics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think probably it starts honestly with me being in sales, funnily enough. So I'm
Interesting.
I'm a commercial director at a multi-billion dollar company. Like, I've got a fairly decent cushy gig in like corporate life. I've existed in corporate structures for like nearly 10 years now.
Yeah.
I've done fairly well for myself. And I think in the pursuit of like getting deeper and deeper into an understanding of like sales methodology, that weirdly kind of pushed me down an understanding of like marketing, mimetic influence. And I started getting kind of deeper and deeper down those rabbit holes. I've always had an interest in like philosophy and politics, but I almost kind of like fell back into it through my corporate life, and kind of looking for new understandings and strategies and tactics. Sales is very interesting because you are very much having to conduct like one-to-one influence campaigns, or like organization on organization influence campaigns, with a lot of
Yeah.
information, It's like doing psyops every single day. You know, we call it account-based marketing, but basically what you're conducting is a psychological operation to influence a bunch of people in an organization to get them to want to do something in a hostile environment where other people are trying to like destroy your attempts at influencing them. And I'm like, looking at that, I realized, how valuable that is as a source of understanding for a lot of areas of the world. Um,
Yeah.
it also made me absolutely like creatively atrophied, and I'm kind of I'm a bit of a schizo at the best of times. So like
Yeah.
pure corporate life was not really doing it for me. So I started streaming debates as like a funny little snail. I started off in like Twitch poll and sort of so I was actually in the sort of like, I don't know, Vosh, Destiny, Hassan sort of spheres, like doing
Oh,
political
really?
debates.
Yeah.
I was on panels, yeah. I had a few panels that popped off, and then I basically left for like a year and then came back and started doing things. I feel like I was almost like my, for want of a better phrase, like my sort of rationalist phase, and then I left for a year and came back as a post-rat. Basically, I'd kind of like given
Mm.
up on debate. I'd kind of looked into things in a bit more of like I don't know, schizoanalytical lens. I started to get a
Yeah.
little bit more interested in like the art side rather than like the rationalist debate side, and that's sort of where I am now. I have a project with a few people, the Pond Scum podcast, which will actually air like probably right after this. Um,
Everybody should go
where
check it out.
we yeah, yeah, yeah. But we've been doing a weekly show for like a year and a half, 2 years now. Probably one of our major influences is someone like Dreg, I guess. We're a little bit,
Yeah.
deranged, artistic, kind of multi-frame. It's definitionally hard to describe.
That definitely makes sense. I'm curious if there was anything in that period away that kind
Mm-hmm.
of pushed your evolution from rat to post rat.
Yeah, so I think that probably one of the defining things was that I was like streaming 3 4 nights a week on top of my like 50 60 hour a week job. So I was like, it
Mm-hmm.
was it was exhausting, right? So I definitely burned out a little bit. But I think I noticed that as soon as I stopped streaming, I was like able to be like an entertaining person in real life again, which was interesting.
Yeah.
I remember like not streaming for a few days. Like, I got banned for copyright infringement, and I was like, oh, I'll take a break anyway.
Oh my
um
gosh.
I remember sitting down with my wife and like having a conversation and making her laugh, and I was like, "Fuck, I haven't made her laugh in like 9 months." Like I'd actually like lost the ability to like, you know, be creative and interesting and engaging in real life. And so I think I realized that one, I wanted to like step back in terms of like the time investment, but also I wanted to like kind of better understand how like the creative energy was sort of being siphoned from me. And so I think that sculpting the energy rather than letting this like frictionless system just sort of absorb it, which is what happens I think when you stream like whatever 7 hours a day, like most career streamers.
Yeah.
And instead doing like a more like kind of structured scripted show, something with a little bit more like authorial intent. I think that pushed me towards more the artistic side of things. I also saw I was in the debate space long enough to see a couple of loops. When you're in there for like 6 to 9 months, you can kind of like you can kind of go through a whole like almost cycle of content. But if you're there for like a year and a half, like I was, you realize, oh shit, we did this last year. Like we've been doing this.
Yeah.
I've been follow. I just realized this is looping. This has always been looping.
It's the
I
same
didn't get
rounds
to the
of
end of the loop.
discourse all the time.
Exactly. I saw that and I was like, oh, nothing changes. No, this is literally just like a content cycle. It's just a slop sphere. There's not really a whole lot to
Nothing
get
ever
out of it.
happens.
Exactly, nothing ever happens. Yeah, so I was like, it was kind of, it was a bit dooming. So I was like, oh, okay, so the debate thing just doesn't matter. None of this mattered ever, and I felt kind of stupid for thinking because like I was, I came from a job where I did win multi-million-dollar contracts by
Yeah.
arguing and persuading and whatever. But I realized the rules and the contents were a little bit different. And I think that pushed me towards realizing that debate is functionally useless in the way that it operates. And looking into that in more detail, I've realized it's actually functionally useless in basically all systems. Like debate just doesn't work. Like it doesn't. There has been no great American debate that changed minds ever in the history of America, which is interesting, I think. But it's always been sort of a facade over the actual power structures kind of moving and operating.
Yeah. I guess I want to ask, like, do you think there are ways to make things happen, or do you think we're kind of stuck in this nothing ever happens phase?
I do think there are ways to make things happen, but some of them break TOS, unfortunately.
Okay, okay,
I
that's
think
fair. That's fair.
I'm an accelerationist in the sense that I'm trying my best, but I think I'm an accelerationist in the sense that I think the only way that you can make things happen is to make the things that are going to happen faster. That seems
Yeah.
to me to be the real possibility. The only other alternative is kind of like local. I think of another random tangent. Are you familiar with Stafford Beer?
I don't think so.
Cybernetics. He's the guy. He was one of the originators of cybernetics, like information
Maybe
theory.
a little bit. I might have read some of his stuff, but I'm not familiar with him as a person.
So he was a very successful capitalist running the British steel industry. He was also a
Okay.
writer on like organizational structure. He was like a like he was given a polymath. Like he was given accolades from multiple universities for just being like a brilliant theorist in a bunch of domains that he had no formal education in. Um, Gets to the top of capitalism, basically wins, realizes this sucks, grows a massive long beard, becomes a recluse in Wales at the end of his life, kind of writing on cybernetics and information theory. Um,
Yeah.
in between, he gets picked up by a group of economists in Chile, and they want him to basically come run the economy of an entire country. He says yes.
Really?
Yeah, this is called CyberSyn, which is the lost futures that the cybernetics people like to, Mark Fisher and those kinds. You may have heard of it.
Was
Um,
Cybersyn the like techno communism? Or am I
base
thinking of something
Basically,
else?
yes. No, that's yeah. So I think so. This is the story of CyberSyn essentially. So they grabbed Stafford Beer, this like cybernetics guy, and asked him to come in and basically build a new economy from the ground up using his like information theory. They built
Yeah.
this like incredible Star Trek style control room. The idea was it all like propagated and flowed up in like a sort of like or almost like colonistic system of like everything would basically be solved at the level it could be solved at, and if not, it would go up one in the hierarchy, terminating in this like beautiful looking control room. And then literally moments after they started implementing it, there was a fascist coup. Pinochet comes in, starts throwing people out of helicopters. And the reason I bring this up is because Stafford Beer basically realized that there was no work that he could do anymore, and he spent the next several years of his life purely just looking out for the 100 or so people who worked under him and trying to keep them safe from the fascist regime. And I think there's that,
Really?
and that yeah. So and it's a bit of a tragedy because like this is one of the like preeminent geniuses of his time, and a decade of his life was wasted looking after 100 people. And so there's this like I look at that as like an idea of, I feel like those are the two things you can do. You can either kind of feed your corpse into the corpus, kind of like feed your body into the machine and try and like
Yeah.
change the world, or you can help your locality. You can focus on trying to save the people around you, the people you love, your community, and you kind of can't do both at the same time in a meaningful way outside of very exceptional circumstances. So I think that's why his story kind of resonates with me as like you kind of have the two options. So that's why I think that it's kind of hard to, unless you happen to be in the right position at the right time, then I
Yeah.
don't think you can really change things meaningfully. But if you're the person who's in the right place at the right time, you are always going to be the one to change things. Does that make sense? Like, you don't really have any agency over whether you're going to be the person who has to do it.
Yeah. That is actually pretty inspiring. His story and like the way that it relates to, I guess, just, I don't know, human progress.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
Thank you for
I,
sharing
I
that. I
yeah,
That was good.
I appreciate his like, I don't know. I think I like that he's a guy who clearly had an immense amount to offer the world, but also just like gave everything up for a period of time to just focus on saving a few people. He did become Doomer after that and die of alcoholism in a shack in Wales. But
It
it,
happens.
it happens. When your life's work gets wrecked by a American backed fascist coup. Yeah,
Oh
there's
my
not a whole lot
God.
of coping strategies other than drinking, I think.
Yeah. Um, okay. I guess one question I have is, do you
Yeah.
think OMI, or okay, I guess first I should ask, do you consider yourself a part of OMI? I put it in the title that you're from the OMI, but
Okay. I think I'm the least compatible person in OMI that is in
why?
OMI, if that makes sense.
What does that
I
mean?
I
What does that mean? Least
I,
compatible.
I think I both instinctively and based on my kind of political positions. I think I am almost. It's weird. There's a very interesting intersection in terms of like the openness and the flat hierarchy and the sort of like vaguely although they wouldn't say this, sort of anarchistic values in terms of like, old school open sourcing, kind of old internet stuff. But that comes with a lot of baggage that I personally feel most of OMI are kind of blind to, and I feel hyper aware of.
Yeah.
If you look at the
I'm guessing you
original,
come from like politically collectivized kind of background.
I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, like
Okay,
my so
that makes
you know
sense.
my mum fled the Yugoslavian war.
Oh
Grew
yeah.
up in Croatia under Tito, so I do have like a bit of a family history in terms of the more socialist spectrum of things. And my mum was just like totally brainwashed by the propaganda growing up, so like she loves Tito, like even to this day. Um,
Yeah.
I despite the fact that he was objectively like an authoritarian dictator. Um, so I think I definitely do have some influences in that regard. But yeah, I do think by coming at it from like the sort of the left side of the spectrum, and from also being quite skeptical of like the sort of libertarian, though not right wing libertarian, sort of values there, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing how easily they can be corrupted, and sort of some of the like third, fourth, fifth order implications of libertarianism, I'm not really a
Yeah.
big fan of. I get skeptical when people in OMI, not the by the way, I would say like not the important, not important, not the like biggest hitters in OMI, but I see lots of
Yeah,
people who are
yeah.
interested in OMI seem to assume that they're immune to propaganda, even as they claim to be producing propaganda that is, you know what I mean, like that openness is itself a bit of a superficial, dangerous conceit that I think can end up hurting people more than it helps them in a lot of respects. So I have a lot of skepticism about the way they conduct things. This is why I'm one of the few people that seems to be defending dark memetics in OMI.
So what does dark memetics mean to you?
I think defenders. Well, okay. So what it means to me is, I think that dark memetics is a well, it's a good. Okay, this is actually, I think that encapsulates some of my problems with OMI. So the claim is that dark memetics is based on dark forest, the idea that there are agents operating in a information environment in which they can't see each other, and they're kind of conducting whatever you want to call them, operations, memetics, in ways that cannot be scrutinized, and that by scrutinizing them they would become less effective. So that you're kind of using strategies that um basically fall apart under scrutiny. Now, that's bad in theory because you can't tell who's doing it, you can't tell why they're doing it, and you can't tell what they're doing, and so that there's
Yeah.
like a lack of accountability in that system. Now, I think that another way you could put it is like a closed memetics versus open memetics. I think that, you know, much as I love Defender, I do think that using the phrase dark memetics, which is rationally, technically, based on Dark Forest, it's not meant to be a negative connotation. In my mind, is very clearly a negative connotation. And the fact that they
Yeah.
won't admit that they're willing to nudge the connotation of that term towards something that sounds more negative is itself, I think, a good encapsulation of my problems with OMI. Is whether out of actual naivety or whether they are themselves doing a more advanced closed memetics, kind of operation, you
Yeah.
have to understand that dark memetics sounds evil to everyone. So
It
it's
kind of
like,
does. It sounds like dark wizardry, right? Like, oh, is
yeah,
Voldemort about to crawl out of this Discord server? Like, what?
exactly. So I think now again, it's totally the way you got to the phrase dark memetics. Totally fair, totally reasonable, very rational chain of logic. The end result. Everyone sees dark memetics and they go, "Oh, the bad guys versus open memetics, the good guys." It's a very, very clear distinction, which I think is, you didn't call them light memetics or holy memetics on your side because you knew that would be a little bit too, you know what I mean? Like there's clearly
Yeah.
a double standard in distinction. Now, the smart thing for Defender to do would immediately go, "I'll just start calling it closed memetics now to avoid that." But that again seems like a memetic thing that has been rumbled a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the strategy's changed now that the thing has been observed. That is literally dark memetics. So yeah, I think it's kind of impractical to commit to open memetics. I think that realistically you should use the tools at your disposal to achieve the outcomes that you want. And I don't like this outcome agnostic form of influence. I feel like, you can do things to change the frame, but you're only ever going to be changing the frame in directions that appeal to you. So there is still a political, philosophical, ideological, interpersonal foundation underneath whatever you're doing, no matter how
Yeah.
open or naive you might be.
What separates like a dark memetics community from like a private intelligence agency or even like a governmental intelligence agency?
I think that not a whole lot, but I think within a probably different forms of friction. So like a security agency would have like hard line points of friction. There's clearance levels, there's background checks, you are heavily gate kept. I would probably see a dark memetics community like mine or like maybe Fuentes's that has like lots of I wrote an article about this, anti-aesthetic memetics, right? It has lots
Mm-hmm.
of systems that make it very difficult to engage with the community without being in the know. I don't suppose you grew up on 4chan.
I, as luck would have it.
Mm-hmm. I like to think I can read fairly well. Okay, great. So you are also a 4chan freak. What was your were you a V, a B? What was
I
your
mostly spent time on B when I was
B? Okay.
younger.
Okay. There's it's in the eyes. I can see it.
Okay, 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 okay. Chill, chill,
No, I'm
chill.
joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, I know,
No.
I know.
So if you recall, because it's like getting to 4chan was itself a bit of an endeavor for the average person, but like people, there's no barrier to entry necessarily. But
Yeah,
posting on 4chan, if you did not use all of the correct shibboleths, you were instantly fed, get the fuck out. You're not,
yeah,
Redditor, whatever. You're using Redditor spacing. You know what I mean? Like you would instantly get dunked for any deviation from it. And I would say that's kind of a dark memetics community where like you basically have to learn the language and systems of understanding of that community in order to not either be isolated by the community nor be or nor misunderstand it. So another example is like Fuentes' community, the group is incredibly racist, incredibly hard for a liberal to like read anything in there without being so overwhelmed with disgust that they leave. That is an
yeah,
intentional anti-aesthetic memetic strategy, right? To make it not possible to survive an environment that hostile, so that you can't observe what they're doing, because they do a lot of very clever mass strategizing. I think you can probably learn more from Fuentes' community of groupers in terms of like memetic psyops than anyone else. Entirely dark system, very 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 effective, and very hard for a liberal to sit in there and feel comfortable enough to even observe what's actually happening beyond the waves of disgust from the Nazis, sending incredibly misogynistic, transphobic,
yeah.
racist memes.
Yeah, I think I agree with that a lot. And another group that's up and coming that I happen to be a part of is American Communist Party, the ACP. They talk a lot about engaging in the information war, but when you're talking about the groypers and like kind of in-group out-group signaling, right? ACP basically does anti-leftist signaling, but pro-communist signaling. So like
Oh,
they
interesting.
there's a lot of people that engage with them that see the same things when they go to the groypers. They're like, oh, these people are being bigoted, these people are like doing XYZ. But
Mm-hmm.
if in the real nuances of it, while some people are like bigoted, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think like by and large, they're just trying to like they're basically using dark memetics as well to appeal to grouper groiper-esque people, right? The
Yes.
kinds of people that are picking up on all these like groiper signals, all these groiper like
Mm-hmm.
dog whistles for lack of better words,
Yes. Yeah.
and they're trying to draw them like towards a left-wing position. At least that's my that's my hope. That's my
I
belief.
think that's super interesting. I'm not familiar with that, but that's exactly the kind of thing I'm interested in. Is like we have quite a I think the major contributors to our community all have sort of similar politics, but I've
Hmm.
noticed that we're just way more accessible to like far right people than most spaces, and I think it's because we're basically willing to signal anything depending on what we happen to be covering and what serves the best artistic intent. I guess similar to like someone like Dreg, and so I
Yeah.
think that enables a little bit more like diversity in the community, and the only way to actually change anyone's mind is through like long form relationships over the course of many months interpersonally. So if you're not able to get people into some kind of in group that you can then use to speak to them, then you are essentially, I think, doing nothing, which is why these like antagonistic debate forms um,
Yeah.
just didn't end up working in a meaningful way, except when they converted people into like Discord users of I don't know. I think of someone like Vosh, right? Because they had quite an explicit intent for this. They would fight with a Nazi, make the Nazi look stupid and cringe and gay, and then they would take some 5% of their audience would join Vosh's Discord to figure stuff out, and then that was like a radicalization space to try and get them, kind of thinking in another direction. That happens a lot less now. And it wasn't even that effective when it was happening, but that was at least the mode. I think that was the political intent behind a lot of what he was doing. And
Yeah.
then he
To
stopped
like
doing it when it wasn't useful anymore, or it wasn't working anymore.
it is interesting the way that like the meta around information engagement has changed. Like I know debate bros and debate sisters were very big like a few years ago, but I think you're right in terms of they don't seem to be that successful anymore. Except I do still
Yeah.
see a lot of people on TikTok where it's like, this is who I am, ask me anything, or like debate me, or like change my mind. I still do see it on TikTok, but they're a lot
Yeah.
smaller than they used to be 4 years ago.
hmm Yeah, well, I think debate. I mean, debate is a. I don't know. I have some doomer thoughts on debate generally, but I think in short,
Why?
well, I think ultimately, I think that it's a. I mean, the sort of. I don't want to get too political, but
Okay.
I think that basically, I think it's very useful to like. I'll frame it as a liberal. I'm a liberal now. Okay. The nice thing about
Okay,
debate
okay.
is that rather than having to kind of manage ideas and kind of like ideas competing with like violence and force and power, you can enter all of these different ideas into a marketplace of ideas. You can have them all compete with each other for attention space, for backing by other people, and then the best idea wins out. That is that's a viable replacement for violence. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
in our day and age, violence has become a viable form of violence. So I think as that escalates, as we see more and more shootings and killings and assassinations and just like straight up violent rhetoric, I think debate has much less and less and less utility because it only registers, it's only valuable in a liberal frame. So I guess that's my liberal performance of that take.
Thank you.
That's better.
Thank you, Mr. Liberal, for
Thank you.
coming on the show today and giving us your opinion
Of
on
course.
that. Um, One question that I have for you, right, is
Yeah.
like you mentioned how dark memetics is more successful when they're goal based, right? Like trying to get
hmm
to a certain destination, maybe. If you have like an intention in mind, right? Dark memetics
Yes.
is the most effective vehicle to get you from A to B. I am curious if you think there's any place for like open source cultware, for lack of better terms, right? Like these
Okay.
kinds of open source memetic patterns, like a field of study dedicated to like the meta of dark memetics, if that makes sense.
hmm
Like, do you think that
I
is is a viable open memetic solution, or do you, like? I guess the question that I'm really trying to get at is, do you think OMI is bad because they're directionless, or because it's just the completely wrong format?
um
Does that make
I
sense?
think it does make sense. I think
Okay.
it's I want to step slightly out of that frame. You know what? What
Sure,
video games do you
step
play?
out of it, reframe it. I just wanted to throw
Yeah,
everything at
sure.
you, and then you can do
For
what you
sure.
want with it.
What video games do you play? What's your
Beyond All Reason, League of Legends, Rocket League. I used to play like RimWorld, Kinshi. I
Okay,
like games
okay.
like
All right.
that.
Cool. Okay, let's go with League of Legends, okay? So,
Okay.
um so League of Legends is a competitive game, right? It's a competitive
Yeah.
environment, and I play a lot of Dota too. Similar
Sure.
enough that
Sure. Sure. Sure.
I know
Yeah. Yeah.
the vibe. Yeah, yeah. Now, because there is all this information infrastructure on top of League of Legends, anytime anything is broken, right? Like any item or whatever, or new strategy is like truly broken, any hero is broken, or champion, whatever. They that immediately gets seeded throughout the community through like Reddit or Wikipedias or forums or articles or whatever the fuck, right? So it's like the brokenness of this strategy ends up being disseminated broadly across the entire population base very, very quickly. And so instantly it's kind of ruined. And without someone having like an authorial control over the environment, that strategy can remain broken indefinitely. Imagine a League of Legends that only had patch notes organically, right? Like it wasn't really manifested by anyone. It just like kind of spontaneously emerged based on everyone's behavior. Um, the problem you end up with is that because there's no system of like actually patching the broken meta strategies, by disseminating it, you kind of break the game instantly. Whereas back in the day, in the 90s, you know, if you were playing like Brood War or whatever, the broken strategies got disseminated much more slowly, and they kind of ended up destroying the game less. You would run into it, you would learn it by encountering it, and then you would have an advantage over everyone else. But it kind of ends up gatekeeping certain strategies from everyone. And you know, the problem is that if you give everyone the same broken strategies, then games or you know whatever the environment of competition can end up collapsing under the weight of the viability of these easy to execute, very effective strategies, as opposed to and then there's no evolutionary incentive to develop a strategy that might be better but is hard to execute. Right, so you see games like StarCraft 2 kind of collapse into Zerg rushes or whatever until those things get patched. You
Yeah.
see League of Legends collapse into only 20 heroes or champions or whatever are like viable in competition, right? You kind of see these like networks not able to sustain the fact that information can propagate so quickly. So this is a fear I have with Open Memetics, where if they I don't think that you can do this sort of information security in the open in the same way that you can't do cybersecurity in the open. There's a reason that the ways that they fix vulnerabilities are not often made public, because that would just make it easier for the broader broader incentivized group of like black hat hackers to break in, right? It would just give them more information to use to break the system. So that's where I
Yeah.
fear the Open Memetics Institute is vulnerable, is that they could just end up disseminating effective strategies too broadly, and then there's no means of gatekeeping. And I don't know if that gatekeeping is even biased in a positive direction. So I can't speak to that, but I do think that just a higher volume of that is probably not going to be beneficial to the information environment as a whole.
Yeah. I almost feel like we're there already though, right? Like as humanity, as like I'll just speak for like American culture because I don't actually know how
Sure.
most of the world works, right? But like as Americans, we've
Hmm.
developed all these strategies to survive in America, right? And then the internet
Yep.
comes along and all of a sudden we're propagating American strategies but also worldwide strategies to
Hmm.
the world. And I feel like that might be part of the reason, and I'm just kind of spitballing here, so it's not like I could back it up with sources, but it
For
almost feels
sure.
like that's part of the reason that we're kind of cascading into this environment that we are in now. Where like the information environment is extremely hectic, and the kinds of people that are bad actors or good actors, the
Hmm.
very dedicated, right? The very like motivated plurs that want to kind of benefit off of these pickup artist type strategies, for lack of better terminology, right? Like generalized pickup artist to get
Yep.
people on your side.
Hmm.
It leads to like where we are today. So how do we defend against it is kind of the question, right? Like in a lot of ways we've already been given the Open Memetics Institute of the internet where we all have access to everything. So now what
So
do we
yeah,
do? How do we develop a new meta?
I don't think I don't think we can develop a new meta. I think that all you can do is develop. Oh, I guess okay. I think that you as a group can develop a strategy that makes you the most effective memetic agent in the existing information environment. In the same way that like a team of 5 League of Legends players could come together and build a bunch of strategies that make them win the World Series. But I don't think that that means that you have a genuine ability to change the information environment other than how it responds to your impacts in terms of like lessening or escalating the propagation of your memetic ideas. I do think that it is basically impossible to like have a broader cultural effect without essentially doing something like what Fuentes has done, where it's clear that he is I would say that he's like a memetic engineer in the sense that a lot of people in OMI perceive themselves to be. But what he's
Yeah.
done is he's created an army of, we in my community we call them like psychic warriors, right? People who are literally operating in the cultural space, and their goal is to execute on the strategies very effectively. You know, Defender does not have 15,000 guys who are taking his ideas and then propagating them with great intentionality towards a specific goal, but Nicholas J. Fuentes does have that group of people. And I think that if you're creating the ideas and the strategies without having the army, you're essentially building weapons for other armies. You're building weapons for other people to exploit. If you don't have a strong community that is like engaged around a particular idea that you back and a value set that you back, you are essentially just like building guns and then airdropping them into conflict zones around the world, and it's purely accelerationism. Like there's actually no real benefit to it. You know, you can design the gun that, you know, will only shoot people who are holding a gun over the age of 18 or whatever, but people will find ways around, you know, those tools, or they'll find ways to jury rig those tools. You know, I've heard I don't know, I've heard discussion about the idea of like an unfakeable signal, for example, right? Like you can
Yeah,
create,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, okay, the problem with an unfakeable signal is that humans are like systems of pattern recognition, and so once an unfakeable signal is produced, you have second order produced a fakeable signal, which is just to look like the unfakeable signal without being the unfakeable signal, you know? So like
Yeah.
all of these strategies only work temporarily until there's a response to them. And that's my fear, is that like if you create a system of like openness, well great, all I have to do to exploit that is create a superficial openness narrative on top of whatever, you know, in the worst faith possible. As Defender, all I need to do is say, there's a rational reason I called it Dark Memetics. It's because of this, this, and this. It's all open. But if I actually don't like Dark Memetics and I want to suppress it, I would use a term like that in order to make it seem like a negative, so that I can like move people away from it, or designate people I don't like as Dark Memetics agents in order to like
Yeah.
suppress their form. So I think that's the issue, is that there's really no way to build these unfakeable signals, because the point of signals is to reduce the energy expenditure to understand some underlying system or pattern. It's the reason signals even exist. You know, humans are lazy, or to put it another way, like efficient. And so we need signals in order to not go insane. So anything you produce will eventually be able to be signaled in a fake way. Like there's no way to produce it. You know, you can conduct a system, but then all you're producing a system of like unfakeability, but then that requires a certain level of understanding of the system in order for
Yeah.
it to not be fake. So it's like Defender is able to create an unfakeable signal that only works on people who are Defender and people who are enough like Defender to not be, you know, faked out by the fake signal. So this is again an issue, is that there's like a you know, potential naivety there, where the assumption is you can get enough people to that spec in order for them to be able to like use these systems. And in reality, I just think that, you know, unfortunately we're all playing in the same space of, you know, a few tens of thousands of people who are
Yeah.
either memetic engineers or people who can propagate those ideas effectively, and all the rest of you know, normie space is basically just victims to whatever memetics get conducted in this system, unfortunately.
Yeah. I guess I am curious if you think that there are like, okay, switching directions. Do you think it's a better strategy to kind of like cope about it, right? Not, and I'm not saying that
Hmm.
in like a negative way, but like
No,
just
no,
in
I understand what you mean.
general,
Yeah.
to be like, oh my God, that's a really awful thing. Like I wish the government would do something, for example, right? If
Hmm.
I'm a
Yeah.
liberal, or do you think it's
Well, we're both
like should
liberals.
yeah, we're both liberals in this scenario, or do you think it's better to be like building your own organization? I don't want to say the other word because of everything going on politically, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. I think you need to build your own organization. I think you need now it's hard, or community, I
Yeah,
suppose is a good word for it. Like I mean that's what we're doing. I think you need to find ways. You need to find a conceit. You need to find a way to uh produce and maintain surface contact area with different demographics that you can siphon from. I think you need to, depending on what you're building, you know, are you building, do you want to be the next Hassan, or do you want to be one of the like people that Hassan watches in order to like propagate their ideas? Because he's not really a memetic engineer as much as he is like a propagator of other things. You know, you see the kinds of people
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
watches on his stream, and it's like second thought, which I have very little respect for them but they are a like in theory, an intellectual operator, someone who's producing, you know, an underlying schema to whatever propaganda Hassan happens to be, shilling at that point. So it's like, where do you want to be? And the latter is more difficult, because you're basically having to build like a dark network, and you don't benefit from like scaling effects of networking. So, like, for example, our system, in terms of viewership, we're not that very big, but in terms of
Yeah.
like connections and network, people are often surprised by the people we are in close proximity to. And it's because
Yeah.
most of the work we do is sort of in the back end. Most of the value we have is in being the connective tissue between different groups of people. And we're like weirdly clouted up in that sense, but you don't benefit from that clout. You can't, other than occasionally people go, "How the fuck did you get them on your show? That doesn't make any sense given the
Yeah.
viewership." So like, I think there's like elements of that. I like to think of Joshua Citarella as another guy who's like this. He's a bit more public now with his like Doom Scroll podcast, but he's like incredibly well connected throughout the world of memetics and political extremism. Um, but he himself doesn't have like an abundance of clout, because he's mostly been operating the back end until he started the podcast, where he's benefiting from all of that, all of those
Yeah.
associations. So I think we kind of look to him as like, we're more of a Cinderella than a Dreg, if that makes sense. Dreg
That
benefits from that sort of scaling
yeah.
cultural effect.
And Jareg is more of like I feel like he's more of the former than the latter. He's
I
a
agree, yeah.
he's a signal creator rather than just a propagator. But I feel like Horseshoe Podcast is propagation, and then like Joshua, I can't say his last name apparently. He is a propagator. There's a lot of people in his community that are propagators, and
Hmm.
I do wonder how much intentionality is going on behind the scenes over at CCCRU, right? Like, are they being extremely intentional with memetics, or did they just happen to be like, let's start an artist collective, and then this is just the end result? I think it's the former, but I can't confirm it, obviously.
I think that if you not to rumble him, but I think Drake does something that I really appreciate, which is and I struggle with, which is he has a very very insincere frame, which is just him performing whatever the thing is, and then he has an
Yeah,
extremely sincere frame, which is interesting. He's kind of managed to keep those separate. I'm amazed that like his second channel, where he gives like advice to artists, or his work on Patreon, where he, like, I don't know, um interviews people or whatever for his various
yeah,
projects.
yeah,
Like, there's a lot of like very very sincere or when he came on our show and he was just like straightforwardly sincere, when we spoke to him. Like, I think there's a lot of very interesting ways that he's able to separate those personas. And so like, he can go on a show like anything else, or he can go on Progressive Victory. He can go on these like shows where he basically is playing a deranged character and being
yeah.
silly and performing something, and yet he is able to be totally sincere in other contexts and be taken seriously. And I think I'm struggling with the sincere taken seriously part. Maybe it's because I'm a funny little snail, but like, our
Yeah.
show is a little bit off the wall in the same way, and we have this like maybe more sincere structure. There's a little bit more hidden that I think is I don't know, it again kind of emulates that. So I think there is an intent. I think that they're also willing to experiment and make mistakes. I think it's like the information environment, and this is sort of how I feel. The information environment is so fucked that one of the few advantages of that is you can kind of play with dangerous toys, and it doesn't have as terrible an impact as if you were in a
Yeah.
environment where things are kind of okay, like under a more sedate, rational, reasonable environment. You making the wrong gun could hurt a lot of people, but right now there's a lot of guns rolling around, so it's worth it to try and find something useful given the state of things.
In a lot of ways, I feel like JREG has been very inspirational to me in terms
Hmm.
of memetic propagation, but also in terms of kind of reframing all of the different frames of reference, right? Like,
Hmm.
he is poking fun at everything, but he kind of stands like above them all. Like you mentioned, you can tell that he's playing, well, I maybe not everybody can.
Well,
You can tell JREG is a fake character. Like, you can tell this isn't like, he might
yes.
genuinely hold beliefs of some of these things, but like, he's always being an extremist. Like, that is his whole gig, right? And I feel like observing him doing that has I don't want to say it's normalized a lot of these items for me, but it's kind of packaged them all into the same category, if that makes sense. Like,
I would I would hope it normalizes like pluralism. You know, like I really appreciate the multi-frame approach.
well, that's what I mean by like packages
Right.
them all in the same thing of like the world is just a nuanced place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like anybody that talks like JREG talks, like seriously, if they're being serious about it,
Yeah.
is probably not real. Like they're probably not a real character, right? So
Right.
like
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that is like the inoculation that I'm thinking of like you get a vaccine and now your body is like, oh my god, that reminds me of like or
Mm.
sorry, you get a vaccine and then your body experiences the like real virus in the wild and you're like, oh my god, that reminds me of that vaccine I got like 6 months ago. Let me like pull those out. And I feel like J-Reg in the same way. It's like, oh my god, I've seen this before. Like, let me just pull this back out. Excuse me,
You
but
think he's trying to inoculate people against extremism by sort of satirizing it?
in a lot of ways, maybe. I don't know if he's doing it intentionally. I would assume there's some intentionality to it, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if he's saying, like, let me make extremist characters so other extremists don't seem so extreme anymore. But, like, that's kind of what it feels like when I'm out and about interacting with, like, far right wingers or far left wingers.
Right.
It's like, none of these people are real. All of these people are just, like, the ideologies behind them that they think they're representing, but really they're just, like, I don't know. I don't want to say they're too authentic because that makes me sound like too
No, that's
nihilistic, I think.
no. I think that's a totally fair. Follow that thought. I think too authentic is fine. I am broadly against authenticity. I think again, I think authenticity is a conceit of openness that ends up being destructive. You know, like I have a lot of problems with authenticity, even in like I don't know interpersonal relationships. I think that's not honestly the best idea a lot of the time. You know, I have
I
this
think sorry, go.
sorry. Well, it's a tangent, but I have
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
Finish your thought, and then I'll get to it, please.
No, I was just going to say that it almost feels like authenticity follows the line of thinking of like I have one true self, like I have my one soul that
Yes.
I was supposed to have before birth, whereas like real life is not authentic. Real life is very like chaotic and nuanced and like we're constantly changing. There is no authenticity other than to embrace inauthenticity. But
I
that's how
totally
I
agree.
feel. I don't know.
No, I think that's fair. Look, I have this recurring fight with my wife, um, which I will be in like an argument about something, and then she'll she'll ask me a question about in the argument, and I'll think for a second. And she's like, you know, I want to know what you're thinking, and my feeling is I want to decide what I'm thinking, you know, because like
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
first my first instinct, you know, for her authenticity is like her speaking her mind immediately and like explaining how she feels straightforwardly, and that might be you're being a fucking dick, you know, and my first
Yeah.
thought in my head might be you're being a bitch, but that's a thought. It's not a thing that like the thought was not chosen. The thought was like presented to me. And just because it's the first one doesn't mean it's the authentic one. I think authenticity is like, you know, I compare it to like someone who's streaming 8 hours a day versus someone who creates like a, you know, a piece of art, right? Like, is the art less authentic just because it was scrutinized for longer rather than XQC just fucking yapping and blabbing whatever the fuck comes to, you know, first thing that comes to his head? So I think
Yeah.
that there's like, they're both authentic, but I think that, you know, one of them is you're trying to like dictate some kind of agency around the thing you want to be, right? It's like a responsibility for your selfhood, whereas the other you are like conveying an internal state as accurately as possible. And I think that accuracy has lots of drawbacks, and I think a lot of the ways that we've moved to this sort of like faux authentic streamer authenticity actually ended up being less genuinely authentic, even if it was more accurate to the like moment to moment internal state than when we had art be, you know, constructed over the course of many iterations. You know, you refining a script over and over and over again until you feel like it represents the actual internal value you're trying to convey, because you're focused on the signal to other people, not just about, you know, expunging whatever like internal state you have and like vomiting it out at every moment. So I think
Yeah.
there's an issue with like kind of the author, and again I think this comes back around to a bit of a critique of the Open Memetics Institute, which is like that openness, that authenticity. You know, some ideas can't be crafted in open. Sometimes you have to like build something in private and then kind of ship it out. At what point have you been building something in private long enough that suddenly you're a dark memetics agent? You know, like, are you doing this in a acceptable way? But and yet some ideas, you know, some species can't survive without 50,000 years in a certain environment, and then the environment changes and they happen to be very well spec'd for it just by happenstance. You know, they had to develop in safety. You know, the baby had to grow up in a sheltered environment for it to become, you know, something valuable in the future. So I
Yeah.
struggle with the openness. I think you end up repressing ideas in very implicit ways that are hard to measure and recognize.
That's really interesting. I hadn't quite thought of it like that before. Like, actively choosing, being agentic about it versus just like stream of
Mm,
consciousness. But that does make a lot of sense. Although on the counter side of that,
yeah.
I do wonder if mm, I wonder if it's even possible to have a truly open memetics institute, right?
Hmm.
Because in a way, the more the OMI grows, the more it becomes its own like insular. I don't know if insular is the right word. I need to Google it really quick. 1 second.
Like in group,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. No. In insular works in
insular. Okay.
groupie, but like
Yeah.
as the OMI grows and gets more knowledgeable, right?
Hmm.
The group will say like, we know what's being done. We know the way to talk about these things. We like you said earlier. Some people feel so immune to propaganda because they see
Yeah.
themselves as propagandists. So it's
Yes.
like, are we actually able to create an open memetics institute, or do we end up just becoming another like esoteric, like post rationalist, rationalist, like linguistic low key cult, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the
I just,
question
I
that
just,
comes out
I
of it.
just, I fear, I more than any other cult, I fear the cult that is like we are the anti-cult cult. You know, it's like we're the. No, this is an unfair comparison, but like, you know, it is not a coincidence that many, you know, child grooming hunting organizations end up fucking filled, infested with child groomers. You know what I mean? Like it's one of the best places for someone to reside is in the superficiality of like hunting bad actors. So I think there is a real danger to that aspect of it because everyone in there assumes that yeah, of course I'm immune. I'm in the open memetics. I'm the guy. I'm the guy who is doing it openly. I see all the bad actors and what they're doing, and you're kind of like blind to your own internal state, which is why I think that one value that we've created in our community is it's very antagonistic to us. Like we have a strong antagonistic streak. I am a thing to kind of gather around hating within my own community to some extent. You know, like there's an
Yeah,
appreciation, but I think that is itself kind of valuable because it's able to kind of I think keep a check and balance. Like you don't want your community to become sycophantic, and I worry that if everyone's just sort of glazing each other over the like the how productive the work is internally, it's very hard to like maintain a productive system of critique either, and it goes both ways. You don't want an overly hostile environment either, but this is where the
yeah,
closed open thing matters, right? Like you need a closed productive environment and a hostile open environment. You need places where you can test ideas, and you need places where you can kind of like experiment without the experiments causing damage in the outside world. We
yeah.
we experiment with bioweapons in sealed labs for a reason.
Well, sometimes we
Well,
do experiment with bioweapons and we just give them in vaccines, right? Like, I'm just saying. I'm not talking about COVID here. Please don't ban me for misinformation. I
no,
was
no, no,
talking
no,
about
no.
like there was one from like 40 years ago, right, where we just gave a bunch of people in Africa like some awful disease. I don't remember what it was, but
What? But that was dark memetics, right? That was they
I
weren't
know that's what I'm
aware of what they
saying.
were
That's what I'm.
participating in.
That's,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So the
you gotta be
accountability structure
careful.
is the thing that's but this is where I think accountability does become important, and the only way that you can genuinely create accountability is by having essentially by limiting the depth of a hierarchy, right? Like anyone who becomes beyond scrutiny is dangerous, and I think that um even from an early stage, you need to kind of be building out alternatives to yourself very frequently. So like defender should be making as many people a defender, not me, but like because I'm a schizo, but like should be making as many other people like at a defender level in terms of like their cultural influence and their connections. You don't want any of these nodes in the network to fail. I think that defender. I've heard them talk about creating a like system that would destroy them if they themselves became a bad actor in the future. Like some way. And I feel like I fear that in their head it's like a set of rules or strictures or systems.
Yeah.
And the reality is, it's people. You need a bunch of people at your level who can like move against you in greater quantity than your own power. You need to disseminate your power across more people. That's the way you fix that. Is you have a cooperative, democratic sort of, as flat a possible hierarchy. Unfortunately, there are systems that interfere with that. Like funding is limited and creates hierarchies. Twitter clout is limited and creates hierarchy. I don't know whether you're friends with someone powerful, right? So if you're
Yeah.
networked in to like some powerful people and you're the only one networked in, then like, and you're not just automatically introducing everyone, at a similar level to you to those network groups, then that's also a limitation. So there's so many ways that system can fail that even if you are totally well intentioned, that it makes me skeptical of OMI as like it's being able to do what it says on the tin. That's not to say I don't think it'll be useful or valuable. That's why
Yeah.
I'm involved. But I don't think it does what it says on the tin.
It definitely reminds me of like the or like robot safety debate where it's like here are the three rules according to Asimov about how to keep robots safe, and then in
Yeah.
reality like people are sicking robots on people. Like it's people,
Yeah.
it's not robots.
Yeah.
But also it makes me kind of wonder, wouldn't that just be like a bomb? Like if they are the OMI and like they end up becoming a bad actor, but they, like you said, it's just accelerating all
Mm.
these things, and then they just blow themselves up. Like they were the one defensive institution, and then they just killed themselves. Oh,
Well, but this is the thing. Like, I think a lot of these institutions are able to like maintain their stated rationale for existing without necessarily having to
yeah,
perform it, right? Because
that's
again,
true.
the
That's true.
signal
That's true.
just becomes the thing.
Yeah,
Look at the way they use like I don't know, after the Charlie Kirk shooting, this like funeral, look at the way they use Christianity as like a system of forgiveness. Erica Kirk comes out and says, like, I forgive the killer, I forgive their family. And then Donald Trump steps on right afterwards and goes, I hate them, I hate my enemies, I
that was
hate them all.
crazy. Oh my
But
god,
it's
no, that
like,
was insane.
but it's not contradictory. It's literally just that it's the shot chaser of here's the signal that allows you to perform whatever you want, and then here's the actual thing, the substance, the thing you actually want to do.
Yeah,
So I think that was very very clear. I think appealing to like the idea that the right winger hypocrisy is a total miss from everyone. It's frustrating to me that 90% of liberals are just like hypocrisy posting all day every day. Like, didn't you say this 3 years ago? Like, I don't need to hear that.
more than
I
just
don't think.
liberals too. The modern
I guess the
leftists as
left. Yeah,
well.
that's true.
Uh,
Well.
one of the leaders of ACP is this guy's sorry, his name is Carlos Garrido, and he has this
Uh
book
huh.
called like the Western Purity Fetish or something.
Yeah.
But it basically talks about how like leftists in America, they care more about being right in theory than actually putting anything in practice, right? Like earlier you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about how your community is very um aggravating is not the word.
Hostile.
Like not even, it
Antagonistic.
wasn't hostile, antagonistic, that was the word.
Yeah.
Sorry. They're very antagonistic, and like they're willing to play with ideas that might be controversial, for example,
Mm-hmm.
right? And ACP is the same way. But it seems like a lot of modern leftists are like, they hate the idea that anything isn't perfect, and they'd
Mm-hmm.
rather just like complain, right? And it
You know
almost feels
why
like
though,
that
right?
same thing. uh there's various reasons that I could give you, but what do you
Okay.
want to say about that?
Well, well, I mean, it feels to me like a generational trauma, honestly, like an ideological trauma. The idea that like every system of power accumulation that leftists have ever successfully mounted in the last 100 years has turned into horror. So I think they became very obsessed around like scrutinizing the power accumulation process to
Yeah.
prevent winning in a way that produces more horror. And I don't think a lot of them really think about it quite that way, but I think that that's the underlying tone. Is why we became purity testing, infighting freaks. Is because we're terrified that the next thing is we're just gonna do another Holodomor. We're just gonna do another Pol Pot. It's gonna be another
Yeah.
fucking Red Army. Like it's just a lot of cultural trauma there. I think.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. That would make sense. Although Western leftists haven't been that good since for like a long time in America. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been more than just our generation. It's been at least since like the 60s. Um but that's a different discussion.
No, I think that's
I
fair. Yeah.
One thing that I am curious of, you think one institution is like incapable of kind of doing this open memetics thing, right? But
Hmm.
there was this book I read. It was a Rand book, so it's definitely letting you know where my
Based.
head was at. But
Hell
it was
yeah.
called the Advent of Net War by John
Oh,
Arquilla, if you're familiar.
okay.
Um,
Haven't heard of that one.
but it was basically talking about like cyber war kind of, but it's really talking about like network based war and not network in, well, yes, network in terms of like digital, but network in terms of social connection and like organizing around like an idea or like a concept, and rather than everybody being centralized, like super tight together, there's like a bunch of pods working by themselves.
Oh
And I guess
god.
I'm
Okay.
curious, sometimes it feels like when Defender talks about I envision more of this decentralized net war on dark memetics, right?
Hmm.
It's less like we are the centralized
A war
authority
on me.
of,
No.
yeah, no, my God, no, no, no. Um, but that's kind of the idea that I get from Defender is like he wants
Hmm.
to build a network and he's always talking about like nodes in the network.
Yes.
And I'm curious if you think like a network solution, like a religious based solution, for example, because have you read the civilization states book or like network states book by
No.
Balaji? Oh, never
No, I
mind
don't think
then.
so.
But like
Sorry.
religions function as a kind of like state in their own right, right? Like the Crusades was a war by Christians on Muslims. Or I
Right.
think I'm really paraphrasing. I actually don't know anything about that conflict, but I
Yeah.
um I think the point I'm trying to get at is, do you think creating like an like memetics aware religion is a solution, or do you think we really just are like stuck if we don't hold the reins of power?
Yeah, everything you said to me is terrifying. Like, so
Sorry.
okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. There's a lot of levels to it. Okay. So first of all, I think that the idea of like a network state or network solutions is very very dangerous, and I think the reason for that is it's sort of an outcropping of or a downstream of like the original, I think, like libertarian intent of the internet in many ways. You know, these idea of like, or as you say, pods, right? You have these
Yeah.
like, you are clustered around like a particular idea, right? And rather than being clustered under like a state, you're clustered under, I don't know, a memetic entity. The idea of like being anti-dark memetics or pro-open memetics or whatever your chosen thing might be. The problem is that like I think that there is a encouraged, and this was like a deliberate intent by libertarians in many ways. Debates, right? Actually, back to debates. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
original conceit of like televised debates, especially as you know, if you look back into it, a lot of them are very very heavily hosted, pushed by. You see like far left versus far right, or center left versus center right debates that are all hosted
Yeah.
and funded by libertarian institutions that do not have a libertarian representative at the debate. Strange, right? Like what incentive structure is there for a libertarian to want these debates to occur without having a representation of their ideals? And the value of the debate space to them is to demonstrate that all of these ideas are so incompatible, that all of these individual pods are so spiky, that the only solution is every man a state, every individual like a system unto themselves. Like no, the
Yeah.
compatibility only through markets, right? So it's like the more you can demonstrate, which is a very interesting way of memetic propagation, right? The way that you don't have to directly advocate for your ideas, you're advocating for this frame of these individual systems cannot be reconciled. Therefore, the only acceptable system is one that doesn't require reconciliation, is one that is just a bunch of isolated nodes in a network, a bunch of markets interacting, interfacing between these different things, right? A marketplace of ideas. So that worries me because I think that the clear solution to me is for each individual node to become more compatible and less spiky, to shave off more of its individualistic, idiosyncratic systems, to be less purity testing of its like local local networked pods, and to kind of have more like fuzzy boundaries between each other rather than being totally atomized and then interacting with each other through like a market layer or whatever replacement for violence we have. So
Yeah.
I think when I hear about like the idea of like creating these nodes and networks and these kind of like pods are clustered around ideas, it makes me feel like we're just kind of going to end up in a what essentially has happened to the internet today, which is we've got these purity testing echo chambers that are all separated from each other that just kind of throw stuff out into a miasmic, kind of like ether between each other without ever actually interacting interpersonally, which is where I think the human network is necessary. You can have your ant colony plur, but individual ants are constantly touching each other's feelers. They're constantly like doing the fucking antenna shit, right? They're
Yeah,
all interfacing with each other, and
yeah,
humans
yeah.
kind of are not. It's almost like we're an ant colony that only speaks through pheromones on the ground rather than like interpersonal relationships, and those interpersonal relationships are getting like further and further atomized apart from each other in terms of like how normies interact with a space, right? They're sending each other memes rather than like hanging out in person. They're
That is
um
still
you know
that interaction though. That's dropping pheromones. That's like touching feelers. Or do you disagree? Do you not feel like virtual engagements still impact like
they
the
do,
overall
but they're
colony?
mediated by something, right? So like it would be, it's like there's this, every meme sent is mediated by some kind of algorithm, right? Someone saw that via an algorithm and they're propagating it through their network, and that person's response to it is going to be defined by their relation to an algorithm and whether they share it on, right? So I think that there is these mediation layers, right? These like systems that interfere in between. It's like if the ants stopped talking to each other and they only started like focusing on the pheromones on the ground, but like the ground is, I don't know, made of something that has its own characteristics that interfere with the pheromones, so it's like there is this mediating layer of like interaction rather than like the ants just vomiting chemicals into each other's mouths directly. There's like a mediation of whatever's on the ground interfering with the actual like substance of the pheromones. So that's what I mean by the atomization. Like there is something in between these humans that is like changing the way that they interact with each other.
Yeah. Do you think that we can take control of them? I guess one of the big points in the Advent of Net War book was that
Mm-hmm.
at various times, red teams and blue teams have the advantage. Like when
Yeah.
cannons were invented, previous walls that would stop like warriors
Yeah.
and archers are not effective anymore. And then like all of a sudden, the people with cannons are winning. But then new walls come up that are effective against cannons, and all of a sudden cannons are no longer as effective, and the defenders start winning again. But I guess what I'm kind of getting at is that if we think of these corporations as like a red team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Corporations, government, whatever you want to call it, the algorithm controllers, the techno feudalists.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if the techno feudalists are the red team, how do we blue team this? Do we develop a new internet? Do we develop cognitive security against the red team? Like, where do you think the direction to go from here is?
um That's a very good question. I can tell you what I personally do. I think that basically without an understanding and control of the systems of power, I hate to always say this. I wrote an article on this. Without an understanding and control of the systems of power, it's very very difficult to change it. It's hard to
Yeah,
suggest that like people in Yemen who are being bombed by Saudi Arabia like interface with the airstrike capacity of like a nation state that wants to see them destroyed in a meaningful way to like kind of advocate for themselves. You kind of can only prevent that by being in the power structure. So I think for me, I think that ascending the power structure as effectively as I can in my personal life, ascending corporations where I believe the real seat of power to be, tech corps, um,
yeah,
is valuable as like a system of understanding and a system of like localized power. Um,
sure.
so that's been effective for me in my personal life. In terms of like being a memetic agent online, I think that you again just have to accumulate enough power to have an ability to influence the network. So your first system should be just trying to like build community, building up a power base, and trying to experiment with features of that power base that represent the ideal future form of it. So like any leftist power project, basically.
Yeah,
In terms of like what you should actually be doing strategically, I think it varies. For me, what I'm always looking for is like the group of people that is most accessible that also has the greatest kind of propagation effect. So for a few years it was MAGA, right? Like my big focus was on trying to build systems of understanding for like reaching MAGA. Now,
Yeah.
right now, today, I think that the most valuable person you can speak to is the liberal, because they are totally, like disillusioned with the current system. Many of them become nihilistic. Many of them are beginning to adopt features of MAGA that they themselves would have criticized a few years ago. Like
Yeah.
they are kind of spiraling. So I think that by understanding the liberal frame and by kind of giving them an alternative frame they can sit in that will make them more effective at operating within the new reality. Many of them don't understand or don't realize or haven't traumatically dealt with the reality, which is that they've just lost the mainstream. They're over. Like
Yeah.
liberalism as like the cultural mainstream. I see guys still talking like they've got like, smugly referring to institutions, and I'm like, what institutions? They've been ripped to it's over. Like you don't really
Yeah.
have anything to defer to anymore. You're kind of done. So some of
I
them have gone nihilistic, but others are just
I
like coping.
I have arguments with people all the time, and they're like, America is like this. And I'm like, maybe 5 years ago,
Yeah, it's over. You you
right?
you
We're
lost.
no longer in that America. Like, we are in a new
Yeah.
America now. The future is different than the past.
So I think the best thing you can do currently, here's my project at the moment. The best thing you can do
Okay.
currently is speak to liberals, engage with liberals, particularly like the sort of important liberals, people who have platforms. Um, Try and get them to first recognize that the situation has changed materially. That's a really hard thing to do because
Yeah.
most of them are still kind of like traumatized by their they owned the world for 50 years. You have to give them a bit of grace for not being able to recognize their own downfall. And then to teach them the strategies that conservatives, who, I'm going to say it, were an oppressed minority culturally for like 20, 30 years. They were not allowed to freely speak their mind in offices. They were not allowed to talk as they wished on social media. They weren't allowed to say crazy shit on mainstream channels until Trump kind of broke the cracked the thing open.
Yeah.
They feel like an oppressed minority. Look at the language they're using. It's all the same liberal grievance politics that they're like, now we can finally speak. Now it's finally our time. Now we can so we need to
Yeah.
teach liberals how to be an oppressed minority, because that's what they are and that's what they're going to be. They need to learn how to code switch. They didn't have to. Conservatives learned how to code switch. They knew how to use liberal schema to interact with liberals in order to get cultural gains. Liberals have just been smugly complacent, living in the same, like dominant world where they can just refer to an institution that they themselves don't understand, but are willing to just by faith assume that it's correct, and then
Yeah.
tell other people that, like, yeah, of course this vaccine institute, like, there's verified, that there are no side effects, whatever. Okay, how do you know that? Well, it's the institute. They're the
Yeah.
guys. It's like it's not really
The
that much
science
different to appealing
says,
to Alex Jones. Yeah, exactly.
oh my
So I
gosh.
so I think that there is a lot of, like you put, it's funny you mentioned the sort of vaccines and the injections in Africa like 40 years ago. Like, I refer to polio. Tens of thousands of people died from the polio vaccine side effects, and that was within recent enough American history that there are grandmothers that are scared of vaccines because they know that someone died from a polio vaccine. So
Yeah.
like, vaccine hesitancy makes sense, but unfortunately liberals just cannot get themselves into a frame of analysis that doesn't include the institution says it's safe, so it's safe. You're going to trust big pharma blindly? No wonder MAGA doesn't fucking trust you, because you seem to have no survival instinct. Like, these are
Yeah.
the guys that caused the opioid crisis, but you're going to blindly trust them over, because because it happens to be correct. Like, the fact you're correct is by happenstance, not because your system of analysis was better. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of situations like that where you can help liberals kind of deframe a little bit. And then my goal is to basically give them tools that make them more effective. And
Mm-hmm.
like with any tool, if you have a hammer, every problem is a nail. If you have a system of understanding another human being empathetically, and that makes you more effective at having conversations with them, you may eventually begin to build some genuine empathetic capacity. Like, so that's
Yeah.
the idea: is to give liberals tools that shape their own brains better to accept like a pluralistic multi-frame approach. And that would be how I propagate my political ideas, which is more pluralistic and multi-frame, and not objective fact finding like many liberals are quite committed to. That's
Yeah.
It's a long answer, it's a bit complicated, but that's like my general approach at the moment.
That definitely makes sense. And I think it's good to that, people are kind of focusing on these populations that are going to be realizing the hard way that they're no
Hmm.
longer in control. Um yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that's the long-term goal of the podscom, or sorry, Pond Scum podcast. Is that
Yeah,
did I get
Pond
that
Scum.
right?
Yeah, you got that right. Yeah, Pond Scum
Okay.
podcast. I mean, the Pond Scum podcast is like a creative outlet with me and a few friends doing what we think is interesting and creatively fulfilling.
Yeah.
Um, it's just I you know it's just a art collective. Yeah, if you want to label it anything. Um, the community certainly more so that kind of project. The things are kind of distinct. You know, like the art project is like an onboarding system, and then the community is a lot more focused on actually conducting like more explicit kind of memetics. And even then, I
Yeah.
think that if you like just sort of show up, and I've seen this happen, which is good for me, in my mind. Again, if you show up, you'll see a bunch of weird shit happening. You won't really get what's going on. It kind of seems like a bunch of loony garbage that's like incoherent. And then you
Yeah.
go, oh, this is stupid, and then you walk away. And that's kind of ideal. Like again, it's sort of the anti-aesthetic memetic defense. The idea that like you have to sit and watch and learn for a period of time before you kind of get what's happening. Um, and I think that it's valuable to have a system like that because that gatekeeps you when it comes to attention. You know, people who aren't explicitly focused are going to walk away confused and dismissive, which I think is benefits you more than anything.
Would you consider that like an anti-memetic, or do you feel like anti-memetics are different than like an unesthetic memetic?
I would say an unesthetic memetic is an anti-memetic, right? So the idea is that like um you are creating something that is like superficially hostile in a way that filters out demographics you don't want, right? We live
Yeah.
in like a again, I wrote an article on this, but we live in like a kind of post-context collapse state where basically every source of friction has kind of been deleted. You know, it used to be that you probably have like 6 7 subgroups like in your closet, right? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
show up different to work, to a party, to hang out casually with your friends, to hang out casually in your house. You know, like you have all these different outfits. Your Discord profile picture probably doesn't change between the 20 Discord servers you're in. You know, like your
Yeah.
online persona is actually more consistent than your real life persona. You know, you don't code switch quite the same way online that you might do in real life. And so people have kind of like lost this like siloing effect. And that siloing effect, which many would call inconsistency or hypocrisy, is really just like a natural feature of like in-group out-group dynamics and how we're able to maintain multiple communities. Um, so I think that the value of anti-aesthetic memetics or any anti-memetic is to try and rebuild those boundaries in a way that like reinforces that like delineation between subgroups. So like for example, my blog is written in a very it's a little bit of an in joke, but I used one of those like accessibility, official accessibility checkers to make the highest rated, most objectively hostile, unpleasant aesthetic possible. So like despite the fact that I'm rated very highly on every like contrast and accessibility and whatever like checker you can use, the blog is objectively hideous and painful to read in a lot of
Yeah.
aspects. Which is funny for me because it's like Goodhart's law. Like I literally just used the measurement as a criteria, and so it looks objectively hideous despite meeting all the criteria. Um, but I think that by coding it that way, you kind of get rid of anyone who's unwilling to focus and like apply attention. Like they're usually looking for something faster. They want something that they can find that dismisses you. And if you give them a system of dismissing that doesn't actually like harm your ideas, but is just like a superficial layer, I think you benefit from that. I think it benefit, I hear people say like, "Oh, the guy with the schizo blog or whatever," right? Because it just looks slightly insane. But they've never needed
Yeah.
to read anything, and they never had to dismiss it. Same for being like a funny little snail guy. Like very easy to dismiss on a superficial layer without necessarily having to like engage in a meaningful way with the ideas, which protects your ideas. Like that actually is a defensive layer. Because people aren't investigating you deeply. You've given them the reason to dismiss you very, very quickly, and that ends up being beneficial in the long run, I think.
Yeah. That it's like giving them an out. I've heard that, if you're
Yeah,
arguing with somebody, you want to make them feel like they have a way out. You don't want them to feel cornered.
absolutely. Yeah. I think that's very important. I say that a lot as well. You have to get it's the cognitive dissonance thing, right? Like you should never disincentivize someone changing their mind, which means that you have to. The best case scenario, you make them think it was their idea, and you lose the debate, and they walk away thinking that they came up with the idea. A lot of the times I find that I'll write in sort of schizo CCRU style language for some of my articles, and I've seen
Yeah.
people read them on stream. They will literally read a paragraph, they will say this is fucking stupid, the real thing is blah 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 blah, and they'll just state the idea back in plain language to their audience, and they'll go, this guy's crazy, this is the real thing. And I think they've like interpreted the correct idea, but superficially it seems like nonsense, and so they like received the mimetic intent and then convey it to their audience as if it's their idea. And I see that and I go, fucking perfect. That's the ideal
You
outcome
win.
because it's yeah,
They got the
that's
entropy load and they pushed it, even if though they're arguing with you. They're like, this guy is so dumb that he thinks the XYZ, which happens to be completely correct.
yeah, and this is I honestly noticed this happening in debates a lot as well, where like I was such an unappealing thing to SMUGBUG is like an intention, right? I'm so unappealing to agree with that you can steal my idea, and
Yeah.
I'll immediately like flip and argue the opposite position, so that now they're arguing for my idea and they win to their audience over what the position they came into it was. So I think there's a lot of value in that kind of. Now, obviously, you're burning your persona doing that, which is why it's good to have a inauthentic character online, I think.
Yeah.
But I think there's value in that kind of in that kind of process.
Definitely. That reminds me of something Defender was saying in the Discord the other day about
Oh,
like you having a conversation with somebody and pushing the information even if they never remember your name or like what you were talking about again, as long as they're
hmm.
pushing your ideas, that's ultimately considered
Oh,
like a
right.
win in
Yeah, yeah.
memetics.
Absolutely. Yeah, the sourceless idea, the sourceless meme.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's very valuable as well. I think that I think I posted something akin to that on Twitter, which was quite funny. I think I saw him talking about that, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny." I was literally I literally just wrote an article on how to do this effectively, and he was like, "This is a concerning and dangerous thing that can happen." I'm like, "Oh, I'm telling people how to do it," which kind of goes against
Yeah.
my own, thoughts and strategies. Yeah.
Yeah. And we are wrapping up towards the end of the time that you said, but I was
Yep.
curious if you had anything you wanted to close out on, any other topics, anything you wanted to talk about that I like didn't bring up.
Um, I think. Well, I guess I myself am in a bind because I'm working on a project at the moment. Which is we're looking at ways to kind of create a ethical accountability structure. So the idea
Mm-hmm.
is, you can kind of you can make links between different. I think we're sort of figuring out how this works, but essentially, you can make links between different accounts and personas online in a way that makes it better. It makes it easier to track like disinformation, for example. So you could like link someone's multiple accounts together. I think of something like End Wokeness, Jack Posobiec, right? These kind of connections where like these large memetic accounts are actually facades around known political actors. Um, and the idea is, while the system itself is able to like access sets of information like email addresses or names or whatever else in the background, those points of contact are hashed in a way that means that you can't use it to dox someone, but you can use it to link different accounts together. So the idea is that
Mm.
that is there's like a trustless hashing system that allows you to understand a link between two accounts. Like these two accounts share some email address or some location data or something. You never see the location data itself or the email address itself, but you are certain that those two different accounts are linked via this piece of information. And I think it kind of hopefully rides the line between maintaining an accountability structure without potentially being misused for targeting in the way that like doxing has often been used. Because
Yeah.
I do think the lack of an accountability structure is much of the way that Dark Memetics has been conducted in a negative aspect. And the way that these ideas are kind of sourced ends up being very, very dangerous. So that's something that I'm working on. I'm very interested to hear how the OMI in
Hello.
general perceive something like that. Hello. Um,
Hello.
I obviously it's a very very finicky area. So that's it's kind of a thing that I'm trying to make sure we've scoped out all of the potential problems of. So I suppose my kind of interest is in maybe I don't know, speaking to people who would be willing to red team the idea and find potential exploits in it before it's something ready for broader release.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I would love to like talk more about it, maybe off stream sometime. But
For sure.
I don't want you to have to dox anything too important.
No, no, no. And again, it's not a system of doxing. It's just a way of like linking different
Yeah, yeah.
online personas together, which is a big hole, I think, in a lot of the OMI's clustering, systems, right? Like, there's not really an accountability structure or there's not a structure for like mapping accounts and identities together in a meaningful way. So you can see an idea be seeded in multiple clusters, but you don't know how to link which nodes in those clusters are the ones that are all connected to each other, which has been really
Yeah.
important in like finding the source of various memes. The riots in the UK were sourced from AI slop articles, and having to kind of piece together a bunch of accounts that had like strange, invisible interests and associations and connections with each other was kind of fundamental to being able to determine what triggered those actual real life instances of violence in my
Yeah.
in my country.
That definitely would be useful in terms of kind of tracking that memetic flow, but also like who are the signal propagators of
Yeah,
these various conspiracies or like fact points that may or may not be 100% accurate.
yeah. Yep, I think
Yeah.
yeah. I would love to. I would love to. I don't know. Maybe we should talk about this off stream sometime. But in any case, I do have to go. I've got my own
Yeah,
show
it was great chatting.
starting in
Thank
like
you
20
so much
minutes.
thank you so much. And everybody check out SmugBug's podcast, the Pond Scum podcast. I will maybe drop a link if I can find one. Maybe
It's
SmugBug
very
could send me a link.
yeah. It's not like this. It's different. It's weird. Okay. Bye. Love you guys. Bye bye.
Bye y'all. Oh my gosh, how is it going, Fimios? We can talk for a minute. I'm probably gonna get off of here after not too long though.
Oh, I'm just chilling. Just
What do you have to?
existing.
I'm streaming, just to clarify that you know that.
Oh, alright,
But yeah,
but I figured
yeah.
because it said stream room.
Well, I'm just clarifying. I'm just clarifying because I wasn't sure if you like saw me on YouTube and you popped in. How's your day
No,
going?
I didn't see anything on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Hold on, I'm gonna go to your thing. Wait, give me a sec.
Yeah, you have to say hi to all 7 people
Hello, hello,
I
Break, Earl,
I
Wiz
I'm a
Watchers,
big shot, Fimios. Oh my God, you're calling him out by
Aiden.
name. Yeah, don't forget Aiden.
Uh-huh.
And there's highly dodgy in the Twitch stream. There's also a Twitch stream, so can't forget that
Oh,
person.
I I don't have the Twitch app on my phone. I'm on my phone right now
Yeah.
because
You just like
I
hanging
never
out?
use Twitch. So if
Did
you're
you
a
wake up
Twitch viewer,
recently?
get fucked, I guess. I don't know.
Oh my God, so rude.
I'm just kidding. We love the Twitch viewers over here. All right.
Yeah.
Just not as much as the YouTube viewers. Okay.
True. We definitely love the YouTube viewers more. Just kidding to all 2 people on Twitch. Oh my God. Yeah. I I was just talking to that guy. His name is SmugBug, and he like thinks about memetics a lot, and he like runs like a memetics podcast, or what? I don't know if it sounds like it's an art podcast that they think about memetics on the back end, but
Let me take a look
interesting
at his
stuff.
channel. Um.
I think it's Pond Scum Podcast.
Yeah. Give me a sec. Let
Let me see if I can find it.
me find it. Oh,
I did find
Bonnie
it.
Blue is the female Andrew Tate. Oh, hell yeah.
That's the
I don't
Pond
even know
Scum
who that is, but
Podcast.
that looks like a good video, so
True. Oh my God, that looks based. We
yeah.
defend every Kanye West tweet ever.
Oh, hell yeah. We
Oh
love
my
Kanye
gosh.
West. I
True.
like, dude, what are your thoughts on, actually, no, I can't say that on YouTube. I can't,
That one song?
yeah, I mean Twitch, but
Honestly,
yeah.
I don't know. I think the content of the song is probably not great. But like musically, I don't know. It's like an all right song, you know.
I think it's
It
mid. I think it's mid. I think Kanye fell off, unironically. That's like my actual position.
if it had different lyrics, I would probably listen to it when I wanted hype beast motivation. But other than that, it wouldn't be like in my daily driver. You know, like sometimes you like go have your like gym music where you want to be hyped up.
I feel like I don't know. I'd
You don't
rather
feel that
listen to like
vibe?
Chicago drill for that. You know? I feel like
I
it
can
does a
see
better.
that.
Yeah, I feel like it does a better job.
Yeah, I definitely listen to rap music too. But there's something about I don't know. I feel like that song was very like wide, if that makes sense. It feels like you're like in a crowd of people. It feels like you're like part of a collective. I like songs that kind of inspire like I'm not alone, if that makes sense. And not like in the literal sense, not through their words, but through like the way that they make you feel. But maybe I'm like thinking about it too much. I haven't listened to the song in like 5 months anyway, since it came out, so
Yeah, fair. I heard it once and that was enough. It was very, very mediocre.
it was a mid song for you.
Oh yeah.
What's your
Even
favorite
even
Kanye
just
West song?
musically it was mid. Like I don't know.
You don't have any. You said he fell off. That means at one point he had a song that you thought was on.
Uh I mean if say for instance like if you just like take a look at like where he was 12 years ago, like
Yeah, I'm
Kanye
just asking.
West I don't like
What?
is like a good example.
Oh, I don't like this song. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that's like that's the shit I don't like, right? I thought that was somebody
Yeah,
else.
it's
I
the
thought that
one
was Chief
featuring
Keef.
Chief Keef. It's the one with Chief Keef. No, Chief Keef, wait, who did it first again? I
Chief
think it
Keef,
was
I don't like,
no,
featuring
Chief Keef
Lil
was did
Reese.
Chief Keef shows up as 10 years ago. So I think Kanye was first.
No,
I
Chief
think
Keef is 13 years ago.
oh shit. Okay, I don't know why
B-
YouTube is like retarded then.
Let me see. I like Gold Digger by Kanye West. That was a good song back in the day. One time when I was a kid, me and my friend group, we like did a whole a cappella presentation of Gold Digger. It was fun. Maybe that's why I like that song. But
Yeah,
yeah,
fair. Oh yeah, you're
yeah.
right. 13 years ago. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm like too young to know that.
True. Yeah. Somebody said that they just like to watch his Twitter outbursts and that they have his notifications on because they just think he has that much riz or something. Let me see who just joined.
So fucking based.
Ewers. When did Ewers join the server? If they were here for a long time, they joined June 20th. Should I let them join voice? What do you think, Femios?
Uh, yeah, maybe they have something interesting to say. I don't know.
Okay, let me give you the role. Ewers. Do you want to talk? I realize I'm kind of just asking or like I don't even know if you want to be here. But I'll give you the option. I have to move you out and move you back in. I'll see you in a second. I wish Discord would just update the roles automatically instead of like making me push people into a different room and pulling them back. Okay, well, you have the ability to speak now if you want to, but you're being quiet, so X for doubt. Deafened? Oh, wait, you should have the ability. I gave you the role. Let me see.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, there shouldn't be any issue.
streaming with me.
Maybe it's if there's any issues, it's gonna be on their end.
Yeah. It looks like they just have to hit the mute button. Like I can see the mute symbol, which means it's on the Discord side of things.
Yeah.
Okay, well, nice talking to you.
Yeah, that was a great conversation with Ewers. That was the best
Oh my gosh.
conversation we've ever had. That's my
Maybe they were feeling awkward that we like put them on the spot and we're like, you have to talk now.
No, we didn't say that he had to. You know.
No, I did. I was like, I gave you the role. I need to know if it works or not. I need you to respond.
Yeah, fair.
And that might have freaked him out. But anyways, I think let me see. Let me check my phone really quick and see if I want to get off of this stream or not. I'll stay on a little longer. What do you have going on today, Femios? Do you have anything exciting?
I'm rot maxing today.
raw maxing. Are you gonna stream tonight or no? Just full raw all day.
I might stream tonight. We'll have to see. I don't know.
What's on the docket? Are you gonna be reacting to lolcows again?
I might. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I kind of want to make fun of a Cheeto who's like, uh, he's like saying like, actually, people should be fired from their jobs for making jokes about Charlie Kirk dying.
Oh my god,
And
didn't you
like,
do a diss track? I was thinking about reacting to your diss track.
yes,
I
dude,
haven't
you
listened
should
to it
react to
yet.
my diss track. You should react to it on stream.
Okay. Are you gonna be mad if I'm like, this is just like liberal grossness? Because I don't know what you say. If you're like,
Yeah, go
yeah,
for
he
it.
deserved.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
okay,
want to hear
okay.
your honest reaction.
Okay, I'll be honest. I'll be honest. But
All right, here,
oh,
I'll send you here, hold on. Let me send you a link on Discord.
wait, you want me to react to it on stream?
Yeah, fuck it, why
Oh
not?
my. Okay, I guess.
And then just like screen share it so I can like see what you're reacting to. All right, I'll put it in the pop-out chat. It's called Kirk Down.
Where? I don't see it.
Pop-out chat.
Pop out. Okay, okay. Kirk down.
You
Oh, I
gotta
didn't mean to
screen
heart.
share it
I didn't mean
so
to
I
heart
can
it yet.
see what you're
You're
reacting
right.
to.
You're right. You're right. Okay, okay.
Otherwise, it'll just be me just like watching awkward silence and then an occasional reaction.
Wait, why'd you do it on a fake account? Oh,
It's not a
oh
fake
god,
account.
not the disclaimer. What the hell? What the hell, Fimios? It's a fake account. Am I about to get my account banned if I react to this?
No.
Okay.
You have screen share. Discord
You're right.
screen share.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Screen share, screen one. There you go. Okay. I know
Alright.
this is a nail biter. Everybody just left the chat. They're too nervous about what's coming. But wait, is this a Chief Keef or not Chief Keef? Is this a babe like what's his name? Baby, oh my god.
Baby Chief do it?
Yeah, is this a Baby Chief Do It beat?
Yes, yeah, that's dude.
Is this Went West?
I don't
No,
know.
I don't think it's Went West. I don't know. I'm like I know this song.
Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk is dead, Nick bled out red. Charlie Kirk? Charlie went to bed full of lead. Charlie Kirk?
What?
Red's bed shot dead below the head. Charlie Kirk? Man down on the spot, last thing he said. Gang violence, we support that he said. Why don't you debate the sport instead? Big foreheaded and expert red, your rhetoric fast, you tear death fed. Defiance doesn't even sit released by Netanyahu because he a fed.
Damn! What? Oh my god, you're going hard. I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what you're saying, but like I can
I'll
definitely
send you
hear.
the lyrics after you listen.
Okay,
Crystal that if you think he was moderate, he hated trannies and fags like a skinhead. Targeting jobs is some pussy shit, you were against that before. There's no need to back.
I feel like all things considered, he was pretty moderate. Like
He was not. He was not. If you actually look into his positions.
I don't know. In the grand scheme of American politics, though, is he really an extremist? Like, is he
He
saying
literally
like?
said that if his daughter got pregnant at 9 years old from after getting like, raped, that he would force her to carry the pregnancy to term. That's pretty extreme.
Okay,
He also
okay,
thinks that all gender affirming care should be banned for everyone, including adults. So yeah.
He thought that. He doesn't think that anymore. But
sorry, yeah, I forgot his pronouns are was/were.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like people are allowed to have their opinions, right? Like
I'm
I would
allowed
never...
to make fun of them for it and say, yeah,
No, I
you're
know. I know.
You're like
I know.
like a far right
I'm not
freakazoid, you know?
I suppose. I'm just saying, like, it's not like he was our president. He was just a podcaster. So it's like, who cares what he really thinks? But at the same time, he talks
an
to a lot of
advisor
people.
for
So it's like,
Trump.
who really cares? What'd you say?
He was like an advisor for Trump.
Was he an advisor to Trump, or did he just
Pretty
like run
sure.
the
I'm
marketing
pretty sure he
campaign
was.
essentially? I feel like TP USA was mostly just like marketing to young Gen Z men.
Yeah, to vote in the wrong direction, yeah.
He was like the GOP's Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, I'm only halfway through. Let me keep
Act like the
listening.
left's not your enemy, just people like me. Man, your shit is so out of whack. The ops will overreact and attack while I smoke on this Charlie Kirk pack. If you're
True, the ops will overreact and attack, and now we're gonna be in like the years of lead in America for like the next 35 years. Yay.
True.
So, that was sarcastic. Yay. It's not a real yay. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually really unfortunate that this is just going to be an escalating game, right? Although I did see Erica, right? Erica Kirk say that like, oh, I forgive the shooter, but then Trump was like, I don't. I hate I hate all my opponents. So it's like, okay, are we trying to be divisive or are we trying to be unifying, right? Like Charlie Kirk.
None of the above. They're trying to grift. Doesn't matter. None of it means anything to these people. They're all like evil gold
wait.
demon people.
You think Donald Trump is grifting? Are you saying Donald Trump is just clip farming at the funeral? Clip farming
Okay,
at a funeral?
To be fair, I don't think that Trump gives a fuck about Charlie Kirk at all.
Oh my god. No. I think I agree with you. Because have you seen all the videos where he's like, yeah,
just, like, so
Charlie Kirk died.
disinterested.
By the way, we have some new construction workers coming up here to work on the deck.
I know, exactly. It's so
Oh
funny.
my god. Yeah. Anyways, I still have a third. Let
you
me.
should be euthanized. Come to my house and I'll chop off your balls.
What?
Smoke on this Charlie Kirk pack. If you're conservative, you should be euthanized. Come to my house.
If you're conservative, you should be euthanized. Is crazy.
Come to my house and I'll
Femios.
chop off your ball sack.
Oh my god! No wait, okay, can I actually leak a song that I made to you after this one? It's a Nick Fuentes diss track.
After this, yeah.
And I'll chop
Okay,
off
okay.
your ball sack. Bitch is so whack.
Oh wait, I just want to say I disagree. I disagree with that. We should not euthanize all conservatives. I feel like that is a bad rhetoric line for us to be using as trans
It's
people.
not
but
a
that-
real rhetoric line. I just said it because it was like bars.
I know,
Because it was funny.
I know. I believe that, but I'm looking deep into the camera when I say these things. So when I cut this up and I re-upload it as a video,
Yeah.
they don't think I endorse that one.
Harder than wants to carry his legacy of shilling for APEC. Her face is fatter than jobs. The roast doesn't mean when your house is made out of glass. I hate to be crass, but Charlie Kirk's neck is someone more fucked up than data boss now. His neck took a bullet so hard it was just.
Oh my god, okay, I'm curious what you think about the conspiracy, because you're talking about, like, the neck, right? But, like, do you think he stopped the bullet, or do you think that, okay, so this is the
No,
conspiracy
I don't
that
believe any
that,
of the conspiracy shit. I don't buy any of it. I think it's
you
all
think it was a
bunch of-
bullet? You think it was a bullet?
Yes, obviously. I was saying his neck is fucked up. Like, more fucked up than that of Boss... Because Boss Nass has an ugly neck.
All I'm
But
saying
he
is,
has, like, a really
all I-
ugly neck because because, like, you know, blood was squirting out of it. That's pretty ugly.
according to the lore, that's a big bullet, and a neck doesn't stop big bullets like that. So I've seen this other thing, that there might have been an explosive device in his microphone, like the pagers.
There's
but
no...
I don't know about that.
No, that's
I don't know about that.
retarded.
I don't know. I'm just saying, Femios. If you-
Rewind a little bit. Rewind it a little bit, and then play
Okay.
it.
I hate to be crass, but Charlie Kirk's neck is someone more fucked up than data boss now. His neck took a bullet so hard it was just like the Zionist that was far up his ass. Charlie Kirk.
Okay.
Kirk is dead.
That
flat
was
out red.
fucking
Charlie
bars.
Kirk.
That was...
Charlie went to bed neck full of lead. Charlie Kirk. Inbred's bed shot dead below the head. Charlie Kirk. Man down on the spot. Last thing he said. Gang violence, we support that he said. Why don't you debate this?
And the chorus, you even put a chorus in here, is crazy. Honestly,
Hell yeah.
I can't endorse this. Like, lyrically, I
You have
commend
to
you
disavow
for
for
creating
Twitch
it.
TOS reasons, of course.
Not just Twitch TOS. I genuinely don't agree with like the mass euthanization of conservatives in America. I think the political spectrum that most people in America are familiar with is inaccurate. I don't think it's like a progressive, conservative, real. I don't think that's a real spectrum that we're on. I think like we're rapidly recreating the spectrum, and like within the next 2 elections, we're gonna have a party that's never won before that's gonna win. Like I think we're gonna have very different dynamics in the way that party switches have happened historically. But
Hopefully, it
That being
happens in a way
said-
that benefits leftists.
listen, I support communists, so
Fucking
I doubt-
based.
I definitely agree with you. I do hope it happens in a way that supports leftists and it isn't literally Hitler 2.0. But
We already
we'll
have
see.
Hitler 2.0. That's called the Republican Party.
honestly, I don't know
It's
if that
called the
is Hitler
GOP?
2.0. I think what comes after Trump, if it's right leaning, is going to be Hitler 2.0. I think Trump is a destabilizing force, but I actually don't know if he is literally Hitler. That's genuinely how
No,
I
he's
feel
not
about
literally
it.
Hitler. He would be if he could.
He's too old to be literally Hitler. He doesn't have the
True.
drive.
True.
Anyways,
He has like dementia.
let me finish this. Let me finish
Lord
this.
instead, big foreheaded and expert in red, your rhetoric fast you to your deathbed. Defiance doesn't exist for leashed by Netanyahu cause he a fed. You're special that if you think he was moderate, he hated trannies and fags like a skinhead.
Okay. Oh my. You think he was a Fed? You think Charlie Kirk was like in bed with the Zionist party?
He may as well have been. I mean, functionally, you know.
Yeah, I suppose functionally he may have been.
He
I,
yeah,
I'm
he
a,
may as well have been, like, considering how much he likes to lick the boot of Benjamin Netanyahu. You know,
Yeah.
mind you, the first person to be like, "Oh, it's so sad that Charlie Kirk died." You know, I'm just saying.
It was pretty
Just,
sus, and he's come out like 6 times saying stuff. He was like, no, it's not real, it's not real. Wait, now I'm nervous. I feel like my Nick Fuentes diss track is nowhere near lyrically as good as that one. So it's like,
you gotta play your Nick Fuentes diss track on stream now.
oh my god, I'm nervous. Let me see. Your body, my choice. That's what you said, right? Well, Nick, guess what? We're prescribing tonight 2 milligrams estrogens. Thank you, ma'am. Approximately, it's time to make your transition mandatory. Since you gave up all of your rights, let's get these hormones balanced right. Spiro to block your testosterone until your masculine act is blown. Sub-Q injections, now don't be shy. You said it's my choice, don't ask me why. What's wrong, Nick? Oh, is this making you stressed? Just follow your rules. You're the best. Your body, it's my choice. That's your decree. Now, face the sweet iron and come serve me. But we both know that it's not a punishment. I know how you like to kneel and repent. Yeah, repent to God, or to God. Nick Fuentes is racist. He might win an award for the world's most hated. He can't tell you straight to your face, man. He's gonna use irony to escape it. The responsibility, so I challenge him to fight me. He's going down. I'm an American fuck Nazi. He's clown. Your body, it's my choice. Yeah, that's what you said, right? I'm American, I'm a patriot. I'm rising to the fight. Fuck Hitler, Nazi loving pricks. They ought to go and die. This ain't happening in 26 or 20 any time. Nick Fuentes is an enemy of democracy and a friend of the Taliban. He can't even hang out on the net. He can't even check up on his gram. Nick Fuentes is un-American with all the shit he says. Loudly anti-queer, but he likes to fill up his tank. That's all for tonight. Yeah, basically,
Also, is that a femboy in your shorts, or is that, wait, I can't tell because it looks like it would be a femboy fit. Like the second
Where?
short that shows up, second short, where it's like the list of shorts on the right.
Oh, this
side.
one?
Is that a femboy? I can't see. It's
Right,
too
let's see
small.
what you've been cluttering up my. So, is D2 world's first bass? Despite your.
No,
Oh,
I think
never
that's just.
mind.
I think that's just a girl.
Yeah, you're right. Dude, it looked like it was a femboy from like far away.
Yeah. What do you think of my diss track? Do you think Nick Fuentes will fight me if I tag him and I say, "Your body, my choice," Nick Fuentes?
Dude, we gotta force feminize him. I don't know how much of a fight he would put up. He might like that.
No, honestly, I'm pretty sure he would. There was this one girl, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this. I don't know, but there was this one girl I knew one time who told me that like she met him through like Grinder at some convention like 6 years ago, and that like he was a total bottom, and like you know he was just very chasery. So like I don't know.
Nah, I could totally see him being into that. Like,
Yeah.
so he was like a complete bottom.
I don't know, and like you know
I think he
could-
is. I think he is.
This girl could have been lying to me because sometimes I'm a little gullible if like I'm I think I just made the song and like she was like, oh my god, I slept with him one time, and I was like, you did what? And then sometimes people just like to tell stories that aren't real, so You never know.
That's true. That's
You never
entirely
know.
possible. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I could see it happening. Like, it's not like Nick Fuentes would ever be a top. Let's not kid ourselves.
What about him and his like femboy? Let me Nick
Catboy Cammy was
Fuentes and
definitely wearing the pants in the relationship. I'm sorry.
what is it? Catboy Cammy?
Yeah, Catboy Cammy definitely
Two
was the
far
top.
right online figures.
Yeah. Nah, Catboy Cammy was definitely the top in that relationship.
What's the lore around Cowboy Cammy? Have his edgy videos been used to channel his audience towards racial hatred?
Yes.
This is real?
Yes.
Does this guy recruit for the Australian neo-Nazi party? I know for some reason the
Probably, yeah.
Australian neo-Nazi party is really like fast growing and like powerful, like compared to other like right-wingers. For some reason Australia, they go crazy down there.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm gonna be so real. I don't know that much about Catboy Cammy, to be fair.
Yeah. I don't either. Oh wait, I was looking for a picture of him, I think. Yeah, I want to look at a picture of them together. But he's wearing the ears. You think the one with the tail is the one with the pants?
Unironically, in this case, yes.
Yeah, I can see that. If you just look at their faces, that's a bottom's face.
Yeah.
I don't know how to
It's like, yeah, it's
describe
like
it.
You would think that Catboy Cammy gives off Switch vibes.
Yeah,
Right?
I can see that. I can see that. I can see that. I can see that.
Especially, like, dude, the way that they look at each other in that photo, like...
In like a weird way, I feel like he would be more submissive with like a woman, if that made sense. But then like
He's like me for real. I mean, what?
oh my god, oh my god.
What? I didn't say anything.
What the oh my god.
Okay, wow.
Wait, is that him? He looks so different. Like
He looks so much worse when he's like wearing a suit. Ugh.
you think he looks worse? I think he,
Yes, he looks worse there.
no, he doesn't. He looks a lot more professional. Here he looks awful. Here I don't really,
Well,
you know, I'm not
obviously not the blackface one is terrible. No, he looks so much better in the cat ears. The one in the cat ears, he looks way better.
No, I don't know. I don't think I agree. I honestly, I
Why
like my
not?
I like my men masculine and my women feminine. I don't know.
I like everyone feminine. I want everyone to be like
Fair.
a feminine and like, you know.
It could
But
happen
yeah.
here. What do you think about the claims that actually I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that on stream, but what do you think about the claims that a historical figure from Germany in World War II was a transsexual?
Look, there's no evidence to support that, but I support it anyway.
He did take estrogen.
Wait,
Like
actually?
his doctor had him prescribed to estrogen, but it was for like an intestinal issue. Like he wasn't producing enough intestinal mucus. I don't know. One of the guys in this organization that I'm in, we used to send links about it all the time, and like, you know, I know, I
I
never,
would
I never
troll
know.
Nazis with it, but like I wouldn't take it seriously.
No, I don't know. I don't think he was actually transsexual, right? But like
Well, no, of course not.
the world would never know.
I feel
But
like he was more of like a sissy crossdresser.
yeah. He was just
That's the
a
vibe
gay.
he gives off. He gives off sissy crossdresser, like grinder vibes.
Oh my god, no. He gives off Nick Fuentes vibes, and he had a Catboy Cammy guaranteed.
Oh yeah, probably. He
Oh
probably
my
he
god.
definitely had some twink that he got railed by.
Like
'Cause, like, what's more pathetic than bottoming to a twink, right?
true. Like look at this man. This man is definitely just like Nick Fuentes.
Oh yeah, complete bottom. Complete
Complete
bottom
bottom.
energy.
And you can tell he doesn't actually sleep with any women because his mustache is completely one color. There's no bleaching.
Yeah.
Wait, didn't he marry his cousin?
Yeah, probably.
Ava
think he
Braun,
did.
right? And briefly the
Damn.
wife. Oh, no, 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 no. They met. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. No, Ava Braun was not Hitler's cousin. And for less than 40 hours, his wife. Why did they get divorced so fast?
I don't think it was the divorce that caused them to not be together.
Oh my God, you are correct. You are actually 100% correct. That is insane. I Wow. Can you imagine like getting married to somebody and then a day later they're like, "Hey, you need to KYS."
Yeah.
That would be unfortunate. But honestly, you just shouldn't be Hitler. That's really the easiest solution in all of this is to just don't be Hitler.
Yeah, true.
Half niece? Oh wait, no, 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 never mind. That's somebody else. Apparently he was also into his half niece and then he forbade her to marry somebody else. But this is Reddit, so who knows? It's just Reddit slop. But like
True.
anyways, let's stop looking at Hitler stuff. Let's
Why? Is he not your favorite femboy twink?
not my favorite femboy twink. I think I have other favorite femboy twinks like Femios. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No.
Just kidding. Oh my God. You were a femboy channel
I
at
was
first.
a femboy twink. Okay? As like a femboy, like how was I? Like was I like decent at it? I don't know.
I don't know. I never had heard of you before you joined my Discord, and I think you were already like a trans
I
woman
was
by the time.
Yeah, I had already turned out by then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I was a little bit different as a femboy.
You think so?
Yeah,
In like a better way or worse way?
in a worse. I think I was like, yeah, I think I was definitely a worse as like a femboy.
Like personality wise, like edgier, or like you were just not as good at presenting yourself as a person?
Both, honestly, both. Okay, well, I wasn't edgier. I'm still edgy. I'm still
Yeah.
very edgy. Um, no, I was just like a mentally ill schizo. Not that that's entirely changed, but you know, it's like toned back. You know, I dialed it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly as much of a mentally ill schizo as I used to be.
You pulled in the schizoness a little. You tightened it all up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no,
Sleepy. Did you just wake up or something? You sounded kind of tired right when you joined. Like you were like
I
rolled out
am
of bed and hopped on Discord to Miss Cat the Vat's stream.
I am a little bit eepy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of eepy myself.
Yeah. I don't know why, I just am very eepy.
Yeah. I get really tired sometimes randomly, like middle of the day. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's like me right now. I mean, I am laying in bed, so that definitely doesn't help. But you
It
know,
definitely does not help.
but I'm like, but it's so comfy, and I don't want to get up. And
Yeah, that's fair.
like, are you gonna
Sometimes
tell me that I have to
what'd you
like
say?
get like? Are you gonna tell me that I should get up and move around? Because I don't wanna.
No, I was gonna say you could chug a glass of water, and yeah, it usually helps me wake up. That that
Mm,
that's what I had to do this morning. I had to like chug a whole bottle of water because I was like, I want to go back to bed, but I have somebody waiting to go on my stream, so I need to wake up.
yeah. And like, also, what if Femios joins the stream? The most important
True. I
part.
I was like, I need to stream today so that just in case my favorite former femboy streamer is on the internet with me.
Yes, exactly.
Literally, that was
Exactly.
literally my motivation on waking up this morning. Actually,
Exactly.
that was my motivation on waking up 3 days ago. And you know, every day since then, I've just been like reminiscing about like, oh my God, maybe today's the day.
Yeah, maybe today is the day. Yeah, exactly.
And after 3 days, arisen in my chat. How convenient.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, anyways, I'm just like shit posting right now.
No,
I'm sorry.
really. I would never shitpost. You should take
Did you
everything
like
I
did,
say very seriously.
did you like my Jesus reference?
Which one?
When I said after 3 days arisen? Oh, never mind. Never
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just not you're
That
not
was like very
not
funny.
you're not on that timing, Femios. I get it. You just don't understand the Christian values. Well, you better
Yeah,
get hip because
I'm
we
actually
live in a Christian
a
country
Muslim.
now.
I'm actually a Muslim nationalist. I believe in Sharia law.
No, wait. Listen, low key. I don't know. I feel like I need to learn more about like Islam because I was thinking about this the other day and how about how like the Abrahamic religions. You know how there are three. I'm not gonna name any names, but like they're evolutions of each other. So I was making the joke in my well, I have a drafted tweet that I never sent, but it was about how like Christians are just a prestige version of the other one, and then like Muslims are just a prestige version of Christians. Because I was like, they just build on each other, right? But then like I don't know anything about Islam, so maybe that's an inaccurate statement, and I just need to learn more about it.
No, I mean they're all. I mean all the Abrahamic religions are basically the fucking same. It's all the same shit.
Are they? Are you pro Abrahamic or are you pro
N-
pagan? Or are you anti religion in general?
I'd say I lean more towards anti-religion, but I don't have a problem with pagans because like they're all transgender and gay. So
All of them,
yeah,
every single last one of them. What about the white supremacists who adopt Norse like Norse paganism?
he was probably transgender and gay as well.
True. Yeah. Oh my
See,
god.
I'm very consistent on my position here.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. But I don't know. It definitely is like interesting. Where do you think the future of America is going to go? Like culturally.
Wow.
Do you think we're going to become more like Christian based or do you think we're going to like
I
just
think it's
kind
gonna
of
become.
stagnate?
I think we're gonna stagnate. I don't think it's gonna become more Christian based. I think it's just gonna be more fascist in general. That's the thing is like people have like replaced their like I don't know like they've replaced their dedication to like religion to like focusing more on dedication to like the MAGA movement. Weirdly enough,
Yeah.
like it is basically a cult following. So
I
yeah.
wonder if they have stopped their religiousness or if we're really just seeing like increased evangelicalism. Like, as I feel like evangelical America or like American evangelicalism is kind of like along this idea of like cult following.
I don't think that there's like more religious people. I just think that like people are like more like dogmatically in favor of Trump. I don't think that like that's this thing is religious people have been dogmatic, right? It's just they
People
didn't have
love
as much
dogma.
political power. That doesn't mean that like more people are religious now.
1 second, I'm streaming.
Who is that?
Somebody was knocking on my door.
Is that your mom?
Yeah, it was my mom.
Yeah.
She was
Safe?
coming to tell me to pause my video game, but it's an online video game and mom, I can't. Stop.
Yeah, but the chicken nuggies are ready.
True, not my nuggies.
The
Anyways,
dino
I'm gonna
nuggies are gonna get cold.
maybe my chicken nuggies are ready, so maybe I should hop off stream.
No, wait. No, don't hop off stream.
No, they're knocking again, so maybe I think my chicken nuggies are ready. I'm gonna get off of here, but
No.
I'll probably stream again later tonight if you want to like hang out. Up to you though.
Bet.
Okay. Bye.
Bye
See you later.
bye.
Okay, bye stream as well. I'll see you later. I'm gonna wait like 10 seconds so that we can time it all out. Let me pop myself up. I hope you had a great day. I hope you have a nice tomorrow. I need to make some thumbnails. Okay, thank you. That's all I got. I love you. Goodbye. 10, 9, 8, 7,